Yeah. We're hoping to get it moving too, so hopefully we'll get it moving soon.
You ready? Just waiting for rules. You've been ready for that since the half hour you've been here.
Oh, you got it? Okay. I'm actually
Good, we're live. We are live from the Village of Millbrook. We are live. Let me turn off my... So you got sound. Got sound.
So you're calling this back?
Good.
Oh, yeah.
This is for the bonds.
No, this is for the...
Both of them.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah, like 382. Yep.
There's two sets of vouchers.
The other one was for the bonds and the bonds that I paid.
Okay.
What? Here, track.
Sorry? These are the actual ones for this one. The signed already was the ones left from last week. Yeah.
That one saying, be polite and have a plan to go outside in the room. Exactly. Yeah. That's what
It's 6 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
Tim?
Yep.
6.
All right, let's begin. This is the August 9th meeting of the Village of Millbrook Board of Trustees. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Nicole, can we start with a roll call for the trustees?
Mayor Collopy?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Doro? Trustee Herzog?
Here.
Trustee Contino?
Here.
Trustee Murphy?
Here.
Bob Collocola?
No, that's okay. Just the trustees is fine. Bob's always here anyway. Okay. So as you can see, the clerk is not here. Nicole, the deputy clerk, is covering for it. Thank you very much for that, Nicole. And Deputy Mayor Doro had to get called out for some family issues. So therefore, you see on the agenda down there towards the end, department reports, was a resolution to introduce short-term rental code. But instead, because we have some more work to do, so we're not going to introduce a resolution. However, I have put together a one-page summary of what we're trying to accomplish, why we're trying to accomplish it, and what the changes are. And I'll take then from that point, public comment. First comment from the trustees, and then open it to the public for comment as well. We'll use this as a data gathering week today, as opposed to actually a resolution. And we'll decide based on the work we need to do between now and getting to a resolution when it comes to the agenda next month, or maybe beyond that. Again, the process would be 1 month we would come with a resolution of introduction of the new code, followed by the next month would be a public hearing of that code. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, good. All right, so let's go through the agenda. First is the minutes approval. The clerk sent out the minutes for the 2 meetings that we had in July, July 12th and the 19th. Any concerns, changes, or issues that the trustees have with those draft minutes? Can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make that
In a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right. Next, we have the vouchers. Notice we have 2 sets of voucher charts today. One is for the bond payments that were due the end of last month, and so that's on the first sheet. And then the vouchers for this current month is the second package we have. And the total for those are $202,950 for the actual budget payments, and then the $81,000 for the bond payments. Any questions about the vouchers? Can we have a motion to accept the vouchers?
Make that.
In a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. All right, the next topic is, I've got a request to move next month's meeting from the 13th to the 20th. From the second Wednesday to the third Wednesday. First off, any trustees have a problem with that? All right, any department heads have a problem with that? Matt, you told me the files is available.
Right.
Thank you for that. You don't have a problem? Good, then therefore we will move the next month meeting to the 20th. We'll make sure that's advertised on social media. We'll just FYI to you all. I appreciate you accommodating my request there. And let's go on to reports. We'll start first off, talk about the Parade of Lights. So first off, I want to just check with the trustees. Any issues with us having a Parade of Lights next December? Everyone's okay with that?
I'm okay with it.
All right, then I'd like to see Collopy to just tell us, give us an overview of what's going on there. And then we want to just get a confirmation that the board supports that.
Yeah,
Now,
I'm happy.
Can I ask that anyone's presenting, could you go just to the left of Don so we can get you on the camera?
Oh,
All right?
so I'm happy to do it. I would like to do it again. I think everybody enjoyed it, but I had 2 new businesses and the library wanting to know a date, so I really appreciate it. Approving it
So
soon.
can we make it official, make it the first Friday of December, which is December
That would
1st?
be great, because also we need more volunteers, so, and I have some parents who want to help with a few things, so we could, we have more time instead of waiting till November.
Yeah, I think we've got plenty of time now to
Yeah, that would be good.
organize it.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Anything else?
I had some concerns, but I think we talked about it, and I think we all agree. I just want to keep educating people. You can't enforce many things.
I would also like to say
But the
that
needs.
you're probably looking for a co-chair because you're going to hand this off next year, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's the plan?
Yeah, that would be, okay.
Vicky, if you smile like that too much, we'll say you're the one. Don't do that. All right, fine. So you're all looking for someone to hand off. And I had some concerns about the liability issues. What was it, Josh, you said the risk
Yeah, I see it's more risk management.
Risk management,
Yeah.
good. So by the way, we did put it in our insurance policy this year,
Right.
the Parade of Lights. And Marshall Stern can come back and suggest that we use police tape along the parade route to try to control the crowd. All right? So we consider that?
Yeah, we'll consider it, but we'll need something to tie it to, so we'll have to get together
course.
with Bob. And
Yeah. And I like more ideas like that just to help.
We're talking about a half a mile's worth of culvert tape.
Buy more tape, yeah.
I need
That's
the
fine.
exercise.
But I'm looking for more kinds of ideas like that to just,
Absolutely.
reduce the risk of having, a bunch of kids and floats and things like that. It's a great event.
Absolutely.
Anything we can do there. And I had talked to Ian and Josh about the idea of having a waiver to try to limit the liability, but I think the response back, Josh, you said is that really doesn't work that way.
No, it wouldn't really work. And you're talking about. Let's not forget there are the participants in the parade, the people that are driving the vehicles, and then there's everybody that shows up. 2 separate categories of risk. I mean, people that show up, you're not going to get any kind of waiver from them, and it wouldn't even hold up in New York
Yeah, okay.
for that activity. If you wanted to talk about the participants, if there's some kind of registration, and just confirm that they have their own, and you have your insurance, the village has their insurance, you might be served to have the participants confirm that they have their own insurance on their vehicles. But I know this just because my own kids jumping in, there's small little ATVs and electric powered toy vehicles and all kinds of people running around.
Yeah, let me tell you, last year I thought those who pre-registered, it went fairly well, it was organized. The fact of the matter is, as you said, a lot of people just show up that night.
Do you get any kind of proof of insurance from them?
No, we've never, I mean, I was told by the people who did it for me, they just come, and it was true because I asked for everybody to register the first year I did it, but I didn't know much about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, the last year I'd say more than half, they were good about the requests, but those many vehicles, they're against the law, so, and I've got the laws, and because they're unregistered and they can't be in moving traffic.
Yes.
So I want to make sure we do it before, while the road is closed. Last year, someone was going to set up with people, but they said nobody wanted to do it, which wasn't true. We have little cars driving between the trucks, and that's
Shopping carts.
well, little mini vehicles, like I said.
No, I know. Lots of little things.
Yeah, there are only two, but I want everybody to go. Jared, that one year we organized it, we did it before the parade started, and that was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, to speak to yours, when the road's closed, there is no traffic.
Yeah,
So
but I don't think
they are
it's closed really when the parade starts, because we have all sorts of people jumping in, you know, they don't even get in the line, and
I mean, it is closed, other than to the floats. It's not open to vehicular traffic.
except they get in at the end, people do, and, well, I think it's moving traffic, and that's one of the ways it's expressed.
All right, so those are things we'll talk about and give them lay down as much as we can.
The road's great.
Process.
Yeah, there's no thoroughfare. It's not.
Right.
It's not a functioning road at that time.
We don't really close the road officially, do we? I mean, it's a state.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because
Oh,
we
good.
can't, I know we notify 911 that it's closed from here to there for the duration, so that we don't get, other agencies trying to get through
All
or.
right, fine.
No,
Yeah.
they do try, and you're right, but people also join at the end of the parade with no registration or anything.
Yeah, people
And
jump in. I mean,
people come in on the side by Washington Avenue before we can get that. So anyway, I just think that's unsafe, it's against, I
All
don't
right, so let's,
It-
people put one on the list.
We could argue this all day.
All right, so first off,
The road's
those are not,
closed.
we have discussion, we need to turn off the AC. Can you hear all right back there? You can?
What?
Let's try that,
All right,
thanks.
well, I'm done
Lighten it
with
up.
saying to Jared, I appreciate
No
all the
problem.
help you got last year.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
We have to turn it on and what's the time? I'm
I'm
sorry?
Dave.
December 1st. It's the first Friday of December.
Did I hear you mention, is that gonna be a standing date so that we can,
The first Friday of December has been a standing date for a while, yeah, so I think that's the rule we use.
okay.
All right?
You can continue. It's a
Well,
new system, so I have to figure out how to.
That's fine, okay, we'll continue. Okay, you're up, not, okay, yours is not here, I see. So let's go to the fire report, Don.
All right, automatic fire alarms, we have 19. EMS calls, 72, which I'm gonna touch on why that was so high and hopefully it'll be getting better. We did have one EMS standby when there was, multiple calls in the county and no, available, paramedic units in the area whatsoever. I'm glad to say we had about 8 guys sitting here and women, sitting here ready to go.
Nice.
No carbon monoxides, 6 motor vehicle accidents. We had 5 green wires down from those big response at the beginning of the month. We had 1 fire, which luckily turned out to be just some garbage outside. We had some lockouts, which I'll also touch on, and 3 pump details again from those storms and 1 trash fire. NDP, 64 calls. Our ambulance got out once for it, and out of the 72 EMS calls, some of our members from the fire side were there 52 times.
That's amazing, okay, great.
Um,
That's-
Fire, we went mutual aid twice. EMS, we went 8 times. And received, we didn't have any fire mutual aid, and EMS 8 times as well for that. So the EMS calls, the high number of that, a lot of that higher number was from Greenbrier.
Oh, okay,
But very good news, Greenbrier is now officially closed by the Department of Health.
all right.
They have a couple of patients left that they're trying to find beds for in other facilities, but other than that, they are shut down.
So the Department of Health shut them down?
Yep.
Okay.
It was a bit of a process. Hopefully, the guy can't just reopen underneath a different name and get going, but I have a feeling if he does, the state will be on him like a hawk this
All
year.
right, that's good.
Um,
That was a real drain on EMS resources.
yeah.
Okay, good.
Then the lockouts, the reason why we had 4 of those, we had some residents in one of the group homes locking themselves out at the wee hours of the morning and then just going, oh, 911, we need to be let back in.
Oh, is that right?
They have been notified to no longer do that and to buy themselves a hideaway key because there wasn't any emergency for us really to handle, but no one else could get them in, so the state police kept requesting us to come do it.
Us being the fire department?
Yes.
Wow.
That's it. I'll call the state police and remind them.
Yeah.
We all have access to it.
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
A couple of times I showed the troopers that were there.
Right, but you're
Well,
teaching them one at a time.
Yeah.
I'll call down and remind them
Oh,
that
good.
Yeah.
we have access to those.
But that is all I have for call details.
A lot of mutual aid received.
Yes, and most of that was the second call in the district. Type
So therefore,
stuff.
you're at Greenbrier and another call comes in. Wow.
Well, hopefully that will drop down immensely at received part.
Okay. Any questions about the fire department report? Anybody in the public? Questions or comments? Okay, Don, what's next?
Other than that, I'm still waiting on one more quote for replacing the car 2. So far, I've got a quote for $80,000 plus the graphics, and another one for about $65,000 plus the graphics. I'm just waiting to hear back from Tanner at Ruby's. I have to go up and meet with him one more time and hopefully get them involved in this and hopefully go from there. The other thing is I talked to Jared a bit about possibly using the old car 2 as a temporary police vehicle for a year or 2. And then once we talked about it a bit to make it safer, I talked to Kevin who's been driving it. Pretty much that's what we know of to make it usable for them would be new brakes, new tires, serpentine belt, and suspension would be needed to make it a safe police vehicle.
When you say suspension, what?
The shocks.
Shocks,
all the way
okay.
around.
All right.
But other than that, that's all.
We're
I
going to talk
have.
about with Officer Witt's report.
Yep.
Is it tires, brakes, suspension, belt?
Yep. That's it.
Roughly, what's a financial number on that?
Roughly. Probably 500 for the brakes, another 800 for semi-decent tires. The belt, depending on where you do it, could go $200 to $300. Suspension, probably another 800.
2,500.
Maybe 4,000.
Yeah, four grand, mounting, balancing, putting it in.
So what's the total?
About $4,000.
$4,000? Okay.
And that's what we know of at this moment.
Yeah, sure.
Again,
How old is it?
it's a 10-year-old truck.
10-year-old?
Come next month or 2.
All right. Oh, so what's next month? You think by then you'll?
that's
No,
when it turns
by the
down.
time I get another quote and bring
Oh,
it back
okay.
to you guys, and then the build time, probably 3 months,
So you're saying it could be something the police would have it within 3 months?
possibly.
Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about that because the trade-off between a short-term fix like this versus get something that's more of a long. We'll talk about that next. The price of the pickup, the $60,000 sounds high. So we'll put in a budget. Do you remember what we budgeted for that? What we budgeted was a bond, right? 5-year bond
For replacing cars.
for the new pickup.
We're looking at doing the Tahoe instead this time. The number Ted gave you guys as a ballpark was 75,000. And the 2 quotes I've gotten back so far are 80,000 and 65,000, but both of those numbers still have to have the graphics added into that.
All right. So Karen, in the budget, how do we account for that? We put in there, I assume, a 5-year bond.
Yeah, we'll
With
put
principal
in,
interest.
we'll put in the payment, but once they do it, the first payment doesn't start till 1 year after.
Sounds good to me. Okay. All right, Dom, anything else?
Okay. That is all that I've got.
Okay, Matt?
Uh,
I'll get them.
New windows were installed last week, a couple weeks ago. One of them was a defect and will be replaced by the manufacturer itself.
All right.
That's it.
All right, good. I forgot to ask Dom, I got this, I think I was on copy, the Swiss Uniform Services note from this guy asking, did you just remember this email?
Yes, several months ago.
He wants
We
to
had
know if
ordered
you give some things at a discount.
Okay. It was a couple oddball sizes that we don't have anyone that can use it right now.
All right.
Um,
It looks like it was a clearance kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think it's more of a thing to try to get us to order, and then, oh, well, you're buying these from us, what else can we get you
Yeah,
to
got
buy?
it. Okay, fine. All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, Officer Witt.
Good evening. Up there you'll find the July report for 23. You will notice that our numbers are a little bit lower than normal. We're having a continued staffing issue. But the notable ones, we 2 traffic accidents. We assisted state police, the fire department, 1 time apiece. EMS 13 completed the court detail for the town of Washington 3 times. We had 3 domestics, 1 larceny, 1 attempted fraud, and more on the community policing side. The 15-foot patrols. I know Trustee Doro had asked us to be more frequent with those, and we are. Both myself and some of the guys that are working at night are being a little bit more proactive with that.
Why shouldn't that be a part of every shift?
It is. I mean, we just, barring bad weather, I didn't necessarily want myself or my guys out walking around in those torrential rainstorms that we had through most of
Good
July.
idea.
The same's going to apply in the winter if it's below 20
Let me ask you
degrees.
this. These 15, are those ones that you've documented incidents that's in your database, or is that just a separate tracking?
Some of them are tracked. Like I tend to put mine in, and the other, like Officer Taney, doesn't necessarily write his in, but I do know that he does them. And then Officer Naughton puts his in also.
All right. So I think it should be, I mean, certainly there's nights when you don't have the time to do it, I understand. But in general, it would be part of the shift. Can you make
Yes,
that
sir.
message clear to them?
Yes, sir.
All right, good, I
We-
appreciate it.
Like I said, we're markedly increased from
Alright.
where we were. And again, I'm not going to ask my guys to go out and do it in thunder and lightning storms or
Or
below
in
zero
high heat when
weather.
they're wearing your bulletproof vest.
Right.
So you gotta make
Yeah,
that trade.
when it's 100 degrees,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily reasonable. I mean, I believe that we could all do a shorter one on those,
Sure.
warm days.
Yeah. So, by the way, given this, Officer Witt just mentioned that this is for the trustees, issues with coverage. So the fact of the matter is that we found ourselves in a bidding war with other areas that are looking for part-time officers. And so we're losing the bidding war, which is why our coverage in the last month, I think even the month before that may have been, I'll call it unacceptable for the 13 shifts per week that we have scheduled. And so I'm working with Officer Witt on a couple of things. One of them is to what we can do to, within the budget, reduce the hours per shift. Because that's the other thing the officers have asked, if they could work 6-hour shifts or 7-hour shifts instead of 8-hour shifts. And in my mind, to get coverage for 6 hours is better than none. So I'm interested in that. Plus, it's a way for us to address this bidding war, I guess I'll call it, we're dealing with, and still come within budget. All right, so Officer Witt and I are still working on that. It's a work in progress. It's going to deserve an executive session once we got the numbers together. All right, so I'll decide based on how we're doing, when's a good time. Hopefully over the next month. I'd like to sit down and have an executive session just to discuss the pros and cons and the issues that we're dealing with. All right? Any questions about that?
Now, I just wanted to clarify that I'm still going to be here the 40 hours a week, but
That's true.
The majority of the part-time filled shifts would be what we're discussing.
Nighttime and weekends is a concern. All right, good. All right, the next thing on my mind is Lexapol. Can I take that?
I don't know, you said you were going to.
Yeah, I got it. So last month I brought to you a proposal from a company called Lexapol, in which for $15,000 they would work with Officer Witt to institute a policies and procedure manual for the Millbrook Police Department. They would also, for $2,000 a year, do routine updates of that manual once it's in place. And for an additional $1,000 a year, they would provide a online tracking of police training. All right. And,
Training and tracking.
And tracking,
Both.
right. And I had talked to Mayor Karen Smith of Red Hook, who had just signed a contract with them, and they're often doing the same thing. They're in the same situation we are. And I also have talked to the mayor of Rhinebeck, Gary Bassett, who was using Lexapol. They actually started this years ago, so they actually have gone through the process of implementing the policies and procedures manual, and now they're receiving the updates. And he's very satisfied with that. All right. And so I went to, I'd like to do it. I want to get the board support. Let me tell you about the funding issue. So the $15,000 plus $2,000 is not in the budget, but what I want to do is the following. Recall during the budget process, we had matched windows in which we had allocated $17,000 in last year's budget, and we put $17,000 into this year's budget to do the full window project. All right. However, we found ourselves to be in the black at the end of last year, and so we thought it would be a good idea, just because, by the way, the contractor wanted it to be invoiced once, that we would pull the money from the $17,000 in this budget for this year into last year, pay them with that money, and then there was an agreement we had, Matt and I, that he can't use that money. It's still in his budget, but it's not for him to use, because we already used it. And what I'm proposing to the board is we use that $17,000 to pay for the Lexapol implementation of policies and procedures manual, as well as the online tracking for the training. Does everyone do you recall the discussion we had with Matt about the windows? Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions about that?
No.
All right. Any questions from the public about that? So basically, this is found money in my mind that I think will allow us to not go over the budget, but yet fund this very important project. Now, the other thing is, I've asked Trustee Contino to work with Officer in Charge Witt as part of this, what will be a weekly meeting, to work with Lexapol to do this implementation. It's going to take, we don't know, it could be 6 to 9 months. Gary said it was longer. Gary Bassett said it was longer than they planned. But again, it is what it is, because we need to do it. So any questions or problems with that from the trustees? I want to make a motion then that we approve that I sign the contract with Lexapol for $70,000 for them to work with us to implement the policies and procedure manual, as well as institute this online track. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, good, it passes. Yes.
While you're at it, would you like to just authorize a transfer from the 3410 fire department budget to the 3120 police for that purchase?
Can we hold it? Can we wait until later towards the end of the budget? Do them all at once?
Then you're going to go negative. I mean,
Yes. We will.
okay. Fine.
The reason why I want to hold it, Karen, and you get your chance at the end of the budget to do your budget adjustments I hate so much. But in the meantime, every month when I look at the thing, I won't be saying, wait, what's going on with the budget there? And it's sticking like a sore thumb. And everyone knows it. Matt knows it. Officer in Charge knows it. There's no surprises.
Okay.
All right? I should have anticipated you asking that question. All right, so all set, right? Good, we're off and running. All right?
You made the motion?
Yes, I did. Okay, Officer Witt, what else?
Last thing we were going to discuss this evening is vehicles. As we know, 7K251's been down since roughly March, and we've been looking at different options to replace that. I know we currently are still making payments on 7K250, So we were trying to push this out either by a year or two, so we're not making two payments at the same time, or come up with a lesser option than the Tahoe that was presented earlier this year. The clerk had put out to bid a number, the fact that we're seeking a full-size police SUV. We got back, I believe, 4 or 5. One of them was a Ford Explorer, which, in the experience that we've had with the two that we do have, I don't want to touch.
Thank you.
With a 10-foot pole. The next best option was Dodge Durangos. No one came back with a Tahoe bid, and they were ranging from 35 to 38,000, and then the subsequent upfit was around 12 to 15. So we're still looking at $55,000, even if we go with the Dodge Durango.
That's a new vehicle.
That would be a brand new vehicle, brand new equipment.
How long would it take to get it on the road, roughly?
They're usually about 2 months, 2.5 months.
Okay. Where's my pen at, by the way? If I can borrow my pen, I haven't seen it. Yes, that's it. Thank you. Okay,
So-
go ahead.
We have the Durangos option. We have the 49.2 option from the fire department, which clearly is the least cost.
That's
But
the most temporary.
it's also the most temporary, and it's also an unknown timeline because we have to wait until they get their vehicle,
Sure.
swap it over, and
Well, you just said
then
it's a 3-month, right?
Roughly 3 months.
right.
And,
Plus or minus a month.
and the cost, he just said what it takes to get it, let's say, roadworthy. What's the cost to make it into a police vehicle with a cage and with painting, whatever, decals? Roughly.
Roughly, I'd say probably around 5,500.
So we're talking 10,000 total.
Yes.
Okay.
I know you had spoken with Fishkill, and
Yes.
we had discussed possibly purchasing one of their used vehicles from them. I don't believe you got a price on that.
No, I didn't, and it's contingent on them receiving the new vehicle they ordered. So she's
Right,
going to
so-
call me when they get the order in hand.
Right.
And at that time, we would have a discussion about
I
it.
mean, the only thing I have to say about that is, for the most part, you know, if a police department is selling a vehicle, they're selling it for a reason, either before it's causing problems or because it's currently having problems. So
Well, she claims that they have it on a regular schedule. However, police vehicles get used, I'll say, a lot more aggressively.
yeah.
You know, than most other vehicles.
Yes, and there's a lot of idle time. There's more hours on those engines than
Which is not
miles.
good engine time.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
The last option that I happened to come across this past week was the town of Blooming Grove Ambulance is auctioning off, for lack of a better word. They have a Tahoe, a 2019 Tahoe with 50,000 miles on it. That their starting bid was 48,000, but this would come with all the lights, the lights, sirens, the heavy duty package. Now, like the mayor was saying, this isn't a police car. This was a fly car, so it's not having 12, 15 hours a day of idle time. It's turned off and they drive to their calls and whatnot. Now, the town of Blooming Grove replaces their paramedic fly car every 4 years, no matter what. If they love the vehicle, if they hate the vehicle, 4 years and it's done. So this municipality is, like I said, on a regular schedule. It doesn't matter if they love it and it's in perfect condition; they get rid of it after 4 years. So now to upfit that from being a paramedic fly car to a police car, again, would be in that $5,500 to $6,000 range. Which would,
on top of the 40.
Correct. Correct. But so that'd be a total again of around 53, 54 if we happen to win the bid.
Mhm.
But again, with the Tahoe, I would expect that we could get another 100,000 miles out of this thing. before it really began to give us any trouble. And on average, you know, we put on about 15,000 miles on a car each year here in the village. So you're looking at 6 or 7 years minimally of highly useful life without the thought of major repairs.
So Karen, how do we fund this? This is a used vehicle. Can we bond this?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we could.
So it's not in the budget. So we have to figure out how we're gonna fund this thing. If we wanna do it, that's just, it's a new item, we're talking about the, it's what's and when's.
I mean,
I guess one question we should take back and think about.
it's more of a long-term solution
Yeah.
than,
Yeah, what Dom's got here is a short-term solution. If we can get a year and a half out of it, which gets us to pay off the current new car, then we can go to the full processing. Versus this would be more of a long-term solution.
but then, you know, at the same time, the Durango ends up being roughly the same price point also.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to consider. You know, I know that the sheriff's office has moved a lot and or mostly to the Dodge Durango. So it's not a bad police car at all.
I gotta be convinced of that, but anyway, okay.
So if you're not a Dodge fan, you're not a Dodge fan.
All right, so any comments or questions about that?
I have a
Yeah, sure.
So, I know how much you have been pushing the Tahoe as a better car. If we go with the short-term solution, does that somehow give us a better chance of maybe getting a Tahoe bid, or do we know what's happening with their availability?
Well, Don, what's their availability?
So the guys that I talked to, they're having trouble keeping the police or emergency service type package in stock. That they literally come in 2 days later, they're sold. So it kind of depends on who gets what vehicle from the manufacturer. So it could be that we get lucky in a year that the demand has gone down a little bit and they will have them always in stock and ready to go. Or it could be worse than that where you go, yes, we're ready to buy, and they'll go, all right, we'll let you know in 6 months. So,
Well, that's what happened with the Ford Explorer, our 7K250. When we went to purchase a new one in 21, they didn't have any. We ended up buying new old stock, which was a 2020, and that's sometimes the Tahoes are hard to keep on the lots because.
All right. But they cost more.
But like you said,
it costs a little more, especially the police package type is more of a specialty, so they're not making the money they make on those compared to the LTZs that all the weekenders like to buy up here. So Chevy is not going to produce as many as those police package ones.
I see.
So when the demand is higher for the nice upfit ones for private sale that they're making 20, 30,000 on, the ones that they're selling at state bid, they're going to kind of go, we can hold off on those.
I see. Okay.
So, because that's one thing I've been looking at with Ruby's as well. We started talking to Tanner about is getting a more base LS one that's more of a budget type private one versus the police package type. It's a matter because we still get a state bid and it's within a couple of thousand. But Tanner said I can get those for you all day long, but the police package he can't.
Okay.
So
and your functions are different than ours.
kind of yeah.
Is the laptop in the car yet?
We were going to address that also. So I have the bracket will be here within 1 to 2 weeks. I've been kind of holding off because we only have one vehicle. And I didn't necessarily want to put down the only vehicle that I trust making to a call to put that in. But the bracket's been ordered. It's being shipped from the manufacturer. So that'll be here within a week or two. I have an appointment with NICOMCO for a week after that to get the computer wired in. After that, we need to get in contact with Verizon to get internet in the car. We tried to do this, geez, Nicole, what was that, like 2 years ago? And the Verizon rep that we have, because we're a municipality, just can't seem to grasp the concept of getting internet in the car. It was very difficult 2 years ago, but we'll get on his schedule for approximately 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks from now.
So it's a four-step process. The bracket arrives, it gets installed by my Comco. We get Verizon to hook up wireless to internet, and then we got to get New York State Police to
Then we
install NDV.
Yeah, which is the silent dispatch. Number of years ago, probably 8 years ago, they had state police used to provide the modems to the municipalities so that we could use their silent dispatch, their computer-aided dispatch system. And about 8-9 years ago, maybe longer, they removed all the municipalities from it and repossessed all of their modems, which were Verizon modems. So I don't understand why Verizon can't, give us an equivalent to that and figure it out. But we are going to request to get put back on that because state police is the agency that dispatches for us. It would be nice to know what else is going on around and be able to communicate with the other, with the troopers silently, which has advantages.
All right, so that's a key activity. I'm going to need to be focused on that.
Right, but we can't even really we can't ask them to be put back on it until we're in the position to receive that program. Yeah.
All right, let's push as hard as we can to get the bracket installed.
Bracket, yeah, and a wire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, the manufacturer said a week to 2 it'll be at our door, and I have NICOMCO in the wings waiting for that.
The board, as well as I think your own officers, are very anxious to get that in ASAP. So let's do what we can to be focused on that.
And we're just going to roll the dice with 251 while it's getting installed. It is what it is.
Yeah. Right.
And if we can't make it, we can't make it. So.
All right. It's worth it in the long run. All right. Plus, you got the plan to detail the car.
Yeah, that happens later this month, the 18th.
Okay, good.
I'll go out to a once over inside.
Good. And I'd like you to get that on a schedule, routinely.
Correct.
Update and detail the car.
Yeah. It's a guy out of Pleasant Valley that Ted Bonus had recommended.
Oh, good.
Previously, he was a paramedic, so he's very knowledgeable about all of our equipment and what to do with it and how not to clean it.
Good.
So,
what's the cost of that?
I believe he said $249, $250.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Come back to the car. So I guess we got to chew on the finances. We can't afford to spend $50,000 out of budget this year. 8.5.
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know if you get a 2019, what is going to be considered the probable period of usefulness for that. So that's what's going to determine whether you get a bond.
All right, well, let's talk offline about that.
Okay.
Officer, can you send an email to me and copy the trustees just to lay out all those options you just gave us, just so it's documented, because a lot of stuff is new. You can chew on it, and you can have hopefully a discussion with a conclusion and a vote next month. I'm not ready to do anything yet. And Don, just keep us posted as you get closer to realization of your vehicle. All right. Anything else? Police? Any questions for the police?
I don't believe so.
Any questions from the audience about the police report? All right, thank you.
Do you mind if I?
Yeah, no, you gotta go.
Thank you.
He's working a night shift. Okay, Officer, Highway Super, Collocola.
Okay, in addition to the report, a few things that I want to bring up. All the new signage that has now been put in force has been put in place. It's a total of 51 signs.
51 signs?
have been either replaced or put in as new.
As a result of the vehicle and traffic code update?
Yes.
Yep, okay, good.
The next summer brush pickup day is Monday, August 14th. On the 15th, we will not be picking up, so everybody needs to have everything out by that day. In going along with that, we've been having some problem with property hedges. People who have hedges that are right on the sidewalks. These need to be, we need to do something about getting them trimmed back off of the sidewalk. A lot of people will trim them, but they're still in the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem that's going to have is that Matt with the Kubota will not be able to get past it
For the snow.
with the snow.
Yeah.
It's just too
It's
tight.
actually a hazard just for the pedestrians too.
And yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, they leave it. If you're a homeowner, you don't realize it. You see that it's nice and neat, but it's grown in a few cases a foot into the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So we've sent out some letters, but I think we need to maybe put that in a public notice or.
I put it in the newsletter last month, but I think we just need to go after the ones specifically we identified.
And I'm sure some of them are absentee landlords.
All right, that's fine.
That then I'm sure would do it if they realize it.
Yeah.
So that's something that that we need to do. And like you said, it's maybe 3 or 4 right now that are really bad. And for us to do it, it is somebody else's property, and they really need to take care of
Well,
it.
the letter kind of goes like, you have to fix this by a certain date. If not, we will fix it, whether it's you or a professional, landscaper, and then we'll bill the owner for it.
Okay.
But so we'll go through that process.
Also, we're going to be having sidewalk cutting again. We've identified at least 35 sidewalks that are raised mostly because of the trees, and we'll have the company come out for a day and take those down, probably in September.
Okay.
Okay.
You have to do it all one day, all those?
Probably.
Really? Okay.
It might go over a little bit, but they come from a long distance, so they're coming from Jersey, so
Okay.
they're going to try and get it done in one day.
And he charges by the day, right?
Yeah,
Okay, how much?
I believe it was 18 and change last.
Okay. And if he needs a second day, we'll keep him here?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I'd
I
like
guess
to complete the job.
prorated or whatever.
Yeah, that's
I'm sure that they'll be able to
We'll
do
get
that.
them all done, either goes over to a second day.
Okay. Of course, they're not doing the ones where we're doing sidewalk replacement.
Right.
As far as paving and chip sealing, we have 2 roads that we're chip sealing on August 29th. There won't be any road closures with that. They'll be able to be driven on shortly after completion.
Is that the date, by the way?
August 29th.
Did that date move from the last time?
Oh, yeah,
It did, okay, fine.
it was the 10th.
Yeah, okay, that's good. You know the date's gonna move, I just wanna make sure
And I'm
that's,
sure, oh yeah, and it could move again.
that's fine,
The way this weather's been, we're at the mercy of their schedule.
okay.
Right now, we have a paving date, a milling and paving date of Reservoir Drive, September 5th and 6th. Again, that's subject to weather. Hopefully we can get that out of the way as soon as possible. Again, it shouldn't cause more than a 5 or 6 hour inconvenience. You'll be able to drive on it at the end of the day. It's not something where we have to close the road. We do have to arrange with, I've already arranged with the automobile license testing,
Oh, good,
and they're fine there, so they'll move it to another place.
all right.
If it works on those days, they'll move it to Maple Avenue or wherever. So there's no problem there. The handicap school that's there, they'll work with us also. They'll just have to bring the buses out the other way.
Okay, for that day.
And they don't seem to have a problem with that.
All right. And I put a call into Dr. Lomagino about the condo exits. We still have to work with them to.
Yeah, I spoke with him and I told him that there's a possibility that they'll have to go out the inn.
For a few hours
For
a
a
day.
for a few hours.
Yeah.
Just, they can explain it to everybody. It shouldn't be that.
This would just be for, not when they remove the old, when they put the new down, right?
Right. When
Second day.
after they mill it, once the machine's past
Then they can drive it.
past Maple Avenue, they'll have a clear sailing on that
Okay.
because they don't have to come down all
But
the
the
way.
day, the second day when they pave is when we'll.
Second day when they pave, they won't be able to do anything again until we're past Maple Avenue and give it a little time to.
Okay. So I'll follow up with him because he did
To set up,
give me a
so-
call with a concern and get back to him, make sure he's in the loop.
Yeah, well, the best thing about it is they can go down Maple. So the only part
Yeah,
that's really a problem is that one short distance, and once that's all set,
they're done.
they'll be able to go out onto Maple.
All right,
So that makes that work a little bit better.
all right.
That's really all I have.
Lots of trees. We've used half of our tree budget so far this year.
Yeah, we've
The
taken
record 2
down,
months.
we've taken down and had to trim a lot of trees because of the fact that we are paving Reservoir. That whole road had to be trimmed so that the trucks, they're in the air all the way up. They'll just destroy the
Sure.
trees. So they've been trimmed down, and they should be trimmed anyway.
Yeah, good.
Trucks hit them when they're
Right.
hanging too low. So we've done, at the same time, we've been able to do some trimming with that money.
All right, good. And Scott's already done this thing to prepare reservoirs, so we're all set to go.
Yeah, Reservoir's all set, and
Right.
the other two roads are all set also.
Any crows on the roof court tree?
Yes, we're fine, we're good.
It should go down, come down?
It should come down when it's convenient to work with other trees that need to be removed, so it doesn't have to come down obviously immediately, but there's no point in having them come out for an hour or 2 hours to do one tree.
Well, it's a good sized tree, but so what's your list look like?
I have no list.
Was that right? So this is the only one you.
Well, we've done everything that you guys gave me, so.
All right.
I mean, they've done everything that you've given me. I pointed out a few, that the one on Booth Court and 2 on Maple.
We took those down, right? The two on Maple.
No, not the one, yeah, well,
Those-
not the 2 that we looked at it,
Oh, the two up around the bend. Yeah. They look pretty healthy to me.
I have nothing to say about it.
Okay. All right, so the Booth Court tree is on your list. So when you get a day's worth on top of that, then.
Well, yeah, you guys have to give me the day's worth.
Okay, yeah. All right, I'm sure it's coming. All right, good. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Any questions from the trustees? Anybody in the audience have a question? So, Kevin, we'll work on the condo, traffic.
I was just gonna say, they always end up having to close that road for work that they do, and they never have a problem with it.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, that happens every once in a
Oh,
while.
I know it. All right, thanks for that.
As long as everyone knows about it,
Yeah, no, they send out an email to everybody.
and if there's any, I'll try,
Everyone's bothered by this meeting.
yeah, if there's any changes, if they change, because they do change the dates. If there is, we'll just let you know, and
Yeah, no, they
unfortunately, it's
Well, I'm really glad to hear that.
do it all.
All right, good.
great.
All right, let's move on. Scott. Oh, I'm sorry. So Tom Harvey is here from Rennia Engineering. And why don't you just, 2-second highlight what we're doing? All right, so Tom, project engineer for Rennia Engineering, he's been overseeing and project managing the sidewalk replacement project. This is for the sidewalk on the south side of Franklin from Front to Friendly. It's in 2 phases. And we received bids. Tom, why don't you just take through what happened and what the recommendation?
Yep, we
Which
have.
is better than this memo here. It's those of you back can't see.
Yep, we had 2 bids, one from Sunup Construction Corp., where their bid was for the phase 1, $134,180, and for phase 2 was $39,330. So that's a total of $173,510.
The other bid we had was from Contact Construction. Their total for the 2 phases was $179, $174. So the difference was about $5,600, and Sunup Construction was the apparent low bidder. I've worked with them before on another CDBG project in the Village of Tivoli. They did a fine job on a county road, so we recommended awarding it to Sunup. We've been in contact with Dutchess County Planning, who administers the CDBG grants, and they gave us their authorization to move forward with awarding that with Sunup.
Okay. So how do we proceed, before we talk about the finances, how do we proceed with the approval from DOT?
We're going to follow up with Mr. Zimmer at DOT, and at the same time, once we get the contract signed with the contractor and the village, we'll move forward with the permit application with the permit office at DOT.
Tell me that again, we approve the bid from Sunup, and then we go to DOT?
I'm going to follow up with Mr. Zimmer, who we're already in touch with, but the permit actually has to be pulled by the contractor. So we won't be able to get the contractor to put the bond up with DOT and things that are required to pull the permit with DOT until they've got a signed contract.
Do you know how this process works?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm kind of confused.
We need a signed contract that's executed by both the village and the contractor before they can start spending any money or doing any work.
That's fine. So how do we proceed? Do we have something we sign, or do we?
Well, that's what I want to talk to you about a little bit. I don't know if the village has a specific contract template that they've vetted and are happy with, or if we should grab something out of our records.
So Mike, I'm counting you given what you went through with the improvement of the stoplights. What did we do there, or what do we have?
Yeah, essentially, we haven't got a standard template that we use all the time. It goes right down to what the work is, and that would have to come through Josh's office in order to be able to then sign it. And
So we'll have to develop something.
I think so.
We can help with that. We can grab it out of another job, and you can help us modify
let's do that. Let's not reinvent the wheel. And Tom and I know each other, so we can easily connect
All right, great.
on that.
So our next steps would formally be, if the village votes to award this tonight, then our next steps with the contract would be a notice of award, where we notice the contractor, tell them they've been awarded the project, we send them the contracts to get executed, they sign their end, they get their bonding together, and they submit those to the village. And then the village, and I would assume the village attorney would review that, and then if everything's in line, it would get signed, and then we can get them started.
now, just a question quickly: do we have to wait once we award the contract to Sunup, do we have to wait for them to be able to sign the permit once we've awarded the contract and submit it?
No, we would want the contract first, because the contractor is going to have to spend money getting the permit. So they're going to want to make sure they're covered by the contract.
Oh, that makes sense. All right.
So what's your typical wait time therefore, when you think, between now and the time when we're actually going to be submitting the permit?
A lot of it depends on us coming up with a contract. Typically, once we get a notice of award, we give somebody like 10 days or 2 weeks to get it executed on their end, to get their bonding together and things. And then it's just a matter of sitting down with the village and getting that end signed. So it could be 2 weeks to 4 weeks.
Okay. All right, fine.
Okay, we're going to try to push for closer as 2 weeks as possible, because we still have to have a meeting with them and with the planning department and with anybody who's concerned with the project, and have a walkthrough with them, with the award, and then they'll give us a date of when they're actually going to start.
Yep, and then that pre-construction meeting with the county, they won't want to schedule until there's signed contracts.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So if the longer we take to get the contract out, the longer we take, then we're getting closer to September, and they can pour concrete in September, October. That's not the issue. The issue is the fact that you're narrowing the ability to be able to get the whole project completed, before it gets too close to winter.
Right, and the pavement plants potentially closing and things like that.
Exactly.
All right, so the next step is you two guys get together and generate.
You could do that this week if you're around.
Yep, I'll send you a Word document of one of the contracts that we're happy with.
Okay.
All right, and I just want to ask you to keep Mike in the loop on there, just so he can keep his hand on the pulse of the activity. All right.
So we need a motion to be able to award the bid itself tonight.
All right, so I want to first talk about financing.
Okay.
All right, so happy with the numbers that came in, the totals anyway. The problem we have is twofold. First off, we have received from Dutchess County block grants of $100,000 for phase 1, $100,000 for phase 2. I don't know today that we are allowed to combine them and say that the total 200,000 is covered by, the 173 is within the 200. I don't think we can do that, which means we may have to put up 34,000 of our own money to cover phase 1's overage. Right? Now phase 2 will be fully covered, not a problem. All right, so that's the first problem we have. And we need to talk to Dutchess County about that. Now, what's a path to do that?
We can call Christine Bonomo, who is in charge of the block grant program, and talk to her. We could also talk to people who work with her on this. There's another person I know, I've got the name off the top of my head, but that we can talk to that will be able to give us answers to that.
Let's play the call tomorrow.
Okay.
Me in my office, we'll make that phone call to Christine. Okay, good.
And the one point I want to make with that, as far as funding and financing goes as well, the CDBG is a reimbursement grant.
That's my second point.
Okay.
So what that means is that we have to front the money first, the full 175. Actually, I think Dutchess County will start reimbursing before the full project is done, right?
They will. I would say give it a minimum of around a 30-day window. By the time you submit an actual receipt for anything as part of it, then they need 30 days to be able to process it and then send you back.
Yep, and they'll need whatever paperwork is needed to support all that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so then Karen, what do you recommend we do as far as this need for money?
So I just had a quick question. Yeah. So are you going to be submitting it to Dutchess County directly, or is the village going to submit it?
Part of the pre-construction meeting that Mike mentioned is them going over the reimbursement process and the forms.
Okay.
So one of the things I recommend is whoever is handling that on the village end, attend that meeting and hear those instructions and save your costs for us having to do that.
Okay, that'll probably be Sarah.
Okay, fine.
Taking care of that.
Now, how do we handle the upfront?
Okay, so couple things we did to tie out the end of the year. I'm recommending the village is in a good position right now. So I'm recommending that they commit $100,000 from the general fund balance for the sidewalk project, authorize transferring that to the sidewalk bank account, and then that will be kind of the starting of having some cash so that we can start paying the bills and then just really staying on top of the reimbursement process with Dutchess County.
As you get reimbursed, you can use that reimbursement money to pay the next bill.
Right, okay.
Right, so
the 100,000 gets the wheel kind of rolling.
It does, but I also think it also shows that the village is committed to contributing to this project, and this is going to be more helpful when you go to borrow or when you go to get grants later on.
All right, fine. So where is that money right now? That's in our fund balance.
It's in the general fund.
In the general fund.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, we're collecting taxes now,
Sure.
so
Okay,
cash-wise, we're good.
All right, so this would basically be a temporary movement.
No, I was thinking that the village would make the commitment from fund balance to the sidewalk project itself. You could do it either way. You could make it temporary, but I think that we're in a position where the village can commit to that.
Okay, so that money will stay in there for the entire
Correct.
duration.
Correct. It will become part of.
When we get reimbursed from the county, will that money go?
That'll go back in the sidewalk account. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Everything will run in and out of the sidewalk
All right.
account.
Does that make sense?
And then my other quick question or quick thing for Josh is any attorney stuff that you do for that project, if you can just document it for sidewalks so that we can charge it to the correct account.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got it.
And just as a sidebar, so everyone is just aware, the planting of the trees is the last step in the process. When everything has been taken out, needs to be taken out, new sidewalk get put in, and everything is done, there are pits that are going to be open, which will then where you plant the trees. Now, even if we have a contractor and we give them, as I hope to tonight, a list of trees that he should be ordering at this point, it's August, and a lot of pre-suppliers are in their clearance part of their supply. So they may not be able to get trees for us that we want specifically in the places where they have to go. And if that's the case, then we would be smartest to say, to the contractors, we're not planting trees in the middle of December, and we're gonna wait to plant those trees in the following spring. Now, when the last time we did a project like this, the county had no problem with it. They were like, fine, we can keep this as an open project, but the contract runs until the end of 2024, near the end of 24.
Okay, then, yeah,
So-
you're good.
So we should be good, but I just wanted to, especially for the general public to understand that, you know, putting the trees back is an absolutely positive sign of the cross. It's gonna happen, but it may not happen this fall. It depends entirely on what's available to plant, and we're not gonna stick in any old things that look green in order to be able to have trees in that may not be appropriate where they have to go. So, just wanted to make that clear to the general public. And I'll be asking for a motion later on during the meeting to be able to give the contractor ability to order some specific trees and not ginkgos that we had originally talked about.
All right, that's the second motion we're gonna have. So, everybody comfortable with the funding plan? All right, so based on that, I'm gonna make a motion that we accept Sunup as the contractor that wins the bid for the sidewalk, phase 1 and phase 2 project. Can I get a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good. And I'll be contingent on you doing your thing with the $100,000 to.
Right. Do
find
you
the
want to
sidewalk.
do you want to do a resolution to authorize the transfer?
Well, that requires a motion?
Well, because we're going to use fund balance, you're authorizing the use of.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion to authorize the transfer of $100,000 from the general fund to the sidewalk budget in order to prime this pump for the front-up funding of the sidewalk. Okay, any questions about that? Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay, good, that's all set. All right? That's the first thing.
Right.
All right, great. Second thing is the trees.
Right.
So I want Mike to, again, describe what are the 5 trees identified for the 5 slots we're gonna have. And I want the board to approve the recommendations of the Shade Tree Committee for that.
Okay, the Shade Tree Committee originally had said they would be comfortable with putting in ginkgo trees. We've had a number of people, I don't wanna go into a huge explanation, but a number of people who said that they wanted different trees in there and gotten recommendations from a DEC arborist, from a local arborist, and from also from residents who are knowledgeable about trees. And they all attended a meeting for the Shade Tree Commission earlier in July, and they came up with specific trees that they feel should be going in specific places and certain kinds. In front of Stewart's and the alpaca store, we have room for larger trees, given the proximity to the buildings, the width of the sidewalks, and therefore, based on their recommendation, we were hoping to get either American elm hybrid, known as a Princeton, which is one recommendation, and if that's not viable, then potentially a Japanese Zeko that would be as a substitute to do that. Okay, both of those are salt tolerant. They have all of the components that have been recommended by the arborist to make sure that they will survive well in a sidewalk situation in an urban setting, and have been used in a number of places before. For the other locations, we have 3 different possibilities. The best one is a red maple, and the cultivar name is Bohawk. It has a 15-foot width, but it has a rounded canopy, and it grows to a height of between 35 and 40 feet, which is a perfect fit for going in front of the insurance agency and Deidre's store, and also in front of Canoe Hill. Now, if those are not available, then you can use either a chinkapin oak or a tulip tree, both of which are considered medium, both of which may need pruning as years go on in order to make them accessible in the areas they're going to get put. But they both have the same salt tolerant capability and have a history of being good street trees. describe them in more detail if anyone has any questions.
These have all been on the web, right? On the website under the sidewalk project? Those trees with the pictures within there?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Any questions from the trustees regarding the recommendations from the Shade Tree Committee? Okay. Any questions from the audience, from the public? And again, as Mike said, we'll decide when and what we choose based on what's available.
Right. And in the budget, all you see on the budget itself that goes out is trees, $1,500. Okay, so there shouldn't be an issue with finances. It means that, well, we're not going to put this here and this there based on that. It's going to be approximately the same price for these trees as it would have been for the other trees, and there won't be a contract to have an issue on the financial part. It's just a matter of what's available.
All right, so based on that, I will make a motion that the board accepts the recommendations of the Shade Tree Committee for the trees that we given in the 5 spots we're going to remove. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, fine, we're all set. Anything else on sidewalks?
So I just want to confirm, so I can get that clarification on the tree stuff right off your website, or do you want to send me an email to clarify?
I'd like them to send you an email.
Okay.
All right. And Mike, I'd like that to be in terms of, here's the recommendation up front, and here's the back end. All right, so we know that there's, here's what we want, and if we don't have that, here's the back end.
Okay. Because the way I'm going to proceed that with the contractors, I'll get a schedule of values for what he's got in place already, what he bid, and then we'll show this change.
Fine.
So he can say it's more or less, just it's the only fair way to do that.
And that's fine. Trees being more, there's not going to be a problem.
Right.
We want to get the biggest tree we can in these slots that we're making by making this the sidewalk.
Right. And the other thing to note is that there will be change orders as time goes on. So the bid that they gave us of 173, 510, if I did that accurately, could change to the point where when we walk through and we say we want this part of the sidewalk taken out between these two expansion joints, and they look and they say, well, you really should increase it 6 inches this way or 6 inches this way. And we say, fine, go ahead. That's a change order, and you have to pay more money when you go outside the original thing. So that price is going to be close, but it's not going to be to the penny. You'll have change orders that could make the project a little more expensive as time goes on.
And we would want to flush that out at the very beginning of the job. So we walked up with the contractor, say this is what was in the bid, this is what the plan showed. You think this extra 5 square feet over here needs to be done too, and this other spot over here, we'll get that all flushed out early on.
But Tom, there's also going to be revelations when we pull up the old concrete.
There's going to be surprises of what
So
we'll
it's
find
like we have change orders is part and parcel.
And another thing, as I saw a lot of the water valves and work happen there, some of that happened in areas that weren't planned to be replaced. So as part of restoring where the new water valves are, there'll be some more concrete as well.
That's fine. Okay.
That's one of the things we noticed in the water.
Okay, good.
And the prices of everything from blacktop to concrete to service hauling, to get those things there, they all change monthly.
Yep, and if the project extends into next year, that might affect the pricing as well.
Okay, so we're off and running on the sidewalk project, right?
God, I hope so.
Good job, folks. Thanks, Tom.
Yep. All right,
We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Scott, I think you're on next.
All right, start with the water for July. All routine sampling maintenance. Replaced the last curve valve that we need to do on Reservoir Drive. We fixed 5 water meters, replaced 2 others. That's all in response to letters that went out with the readable meters. Yeah, so we've got 7 done so far.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's working.
All right. Good job.
And we replaced the backflow device here at the firehouse, which was leaking.
All right.
That's it for the water.
Questions about Scott's water report? Anybody? Okay. There's the monthly run. Okay, sewer.
All right. All routine maintenance and sampling. Earth care hauled sludge. We've cleaned filter beds. And we repaired a broken fitting on one of the influent pump discharge lines.
Look at that precipitation for July.
Yeah.
Almost 15 inches.
Over double two previous ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions about the sewer? Yes.
Have you had any issues at the sewer treatment plant because of the amount of flow?
Like what kind of issues?
Like too much flow.
Too much flow, okay. All right.
I wish I knew where it was coming from, but like when we had that rain on that Sunday, I mean, it just skyrocketed. I don't know where it's coming from.
Some pumps.
Yeah, well, I'm sure some of it, but as drastically as it went up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's I don't know. Because we also had it last weekend. I wasn't around in town, but I think last weekend we had a couple inches of rain, or this previous weekend. It jumped.
Okay.
So I'll have to.
Should jump to 12 month below the average.
It did. Yeah. We were doing good.
Yeah. All right. The other problem with all that rain, Karen, is that that's going to reduce our revenue for water, which is,
Yeah, the water flows are.
Yeah.
If you look at the graph, if you go back to last summer, I mean they're drastically different. That's the sewer, but.
Yeah. It is what it is. Can't anticipate it, so. All right. The pump station at the Bennett Park.
Yep.
I got an update from Delaware. I was expecting the price to go down. It didn't. It's still around $310,000. We need a meeting with them. They say they're waiting for VRI to get back to them with the costs for the installation and electrical prices, I guess. All for our last meeting. And I thought the discussion we were having there was that we were going to see some significant drop in the price. My optimism, I guess. But anyway, so when VRI can get that story together, I want to meet with you guys and Delaware again. And just find out where we're at. Right now, the parts are in order, and basically we're waiting for the long lead times. The first couple will show up by the end of this year, I think.
I believe the pump station is scheduled for December 27th.
Yeah, okay, which...
Obviously it's tentative, but...
Okay. Can you guys work in the winter, or is it I guess a function of weather?
What's that?
Can you work in the winter?
Oh, yeah, weather dependent.
Weather dependent, yeah. All right.
The generator, I believe, I had to look, but it was scheduled to be here prior to the pump station. I think it had a shorter lead time.
Is that right? Okay. And then there is one I heard about the road upgrade. Bob, you're going to take care of that, right? The highway guys are going to build a road. Huh?
Not yet.
Not yet, I'm saying don't do it yet. It's on here for them to have some professional job done. You're going to go do it yourself. So I appreciate that. Any questions about the schedule for the sewer plant? It's all like so many things waiting for the thing to show up. Okay, good. Anything else for Scott? All right, thanks. Nicole, you're going to give us the building report?
Yeah, it's right on there.
We'll say a few things.
What do you want me to say?
How many permits were issued? I'm just kidding. Okay. All right, so just go to my part. So we had a resignation from the planning board, and we moved, and so there was a vacancy. And I sent an email to the trustees today. We had 3 candidates apply. Really happy about that, by the way. Which, by the way, those who didn't select are certainly going to be on our list next time there's an available opening somewhere. Matt Anderson, the chairman, interviewed the 3 candidates, and he's recommended that we appoint Frank Rettel to the open slot. And I agree with that based on his resume and his background. So I'll make a motion that we approve Frank Rettel joining the planning board. Take it a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, good. And I just need Frank at some time to
What
come
was
into
the
the
last
office.
name?
Rettel, R-E-D-L.
Oh,
I need Frank to come into the office sometime to get sworn in by Sarah, right? You can't do the swearing, can you? That's fine. No rush, but I would like Frank to drop on by during the office hours and get sworn in. All right? And there is a big meeting on Monday where the planning board is going to review the site plan for the Four Brothers making renovations to Aurelia's. The new restaurant is called Steffes. And they're making some additions and some renovations. And the details will be presented there. And notices are out. The sign is in front of the lot. Just tell everybody that the meeting is at 6 o'clock on Monday the 14th. Any questions about that? Anybody in the audience, questions?
At the village hall?
At the village hall, yes, thank you. All right, so next on the agenda is the, let's go through the rest of the bank balance information here. So as Karen said, we're accumulated a lot of tax dollars in the tax fund, moved over to the general fund. Let me ask you this: your class is working so well.
I'd move a lot more of it over.
Took the words out of my mouth. Good. You, Nicole, as being the payer of the bills.
No,
okay with that?
I discussed that with Sarah. I mean, we have a big amount to pay this billing period.
This billing period, okay,
but
fine.
We can move more.
Good. I mean, in my mind, why is it we can't move everything but the next month's estimated bills?
I don't know what the estimated bills are.
You can look at the last 6 months average and use that. I mean, Karen, do you think that's...
We can move 500,000 or 600,000.
All right, good.
From tax.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Because we're earning 5
Because we can pull it. It's liquid. The liquidity, we can pull it tomorrow. If we need.
All right, great. I love it. All right, fine.
And while the rates are good,
yeah, right.
Let's take advantage of it.
All right, good. The other thing I want to point out to the trustees and the public is the HNL Trust line. See that down there, 386 You see the big jump there? We were able to sell that stock that was in the Lamont Trust account, and that's why we added almost $13,000. So the total there now is $26,000, and that's going to come back into our discussion when Pat talks about options he's pursuing to replace the steps in the village hall. All right? Because this will be the source of the funds for that financing. All right? Any questions about anything else that's on the bank balance list? Mike, you still have your $7,600 for trees. That's still available for any extra work you want to do.
I'm assuming the approximately $1,850. I know that's not the exact figure that we used to plant the 5 trees that we did this spring went from the shade tree account, which is $4,800.
Which is part of the budget.
Which is part of the budget. Okay, all right. That's fine.
And so this is here in case you run over. All right, so we're all set there. Okay, here's the New York class balances. There's the yield of 5%. Year to date, we've earned an extra $42,000. I love it. All right, good. And the bottom line there, the annual financial report, what used to be called the AUD is now the AFR. You sent it to the state by the 1st of August, on time, a record. Congratulations, well done. Yeah, very impressive. I mean, every year you've been improving it, and now actually you're...
And it was a team effort. Lots of credit to Sarah and Nicole.
Well, it worked out really well, especially with using a new software program this year.
Yeah,
That's really good.
it was a challenge.
So congratulations, well done. I did ask Sharon to come, not to the September meeting, but to the October meeting to give a report on the AFR for our last fiscal year. All right, so we'll move that out a month, just because we moved the meeting next month, and she as well as Sarah are going to be at
Nikon.
up north. Okay. Any problems with that? All right, good. Next topic on the agenda is the, actually it's a resolution for us to increase the limits for the property tax exemptions for seniors and veterans. And we talked about the last 3 months, and basically we've just codified it into this resolution. Any questions from the trustees about what we're doing here? No. And as we've discussed before, this is going to be a 2-step process that brings us halfway for the next vote in June of 2024, and all the way to the levels that the town of Washington is today for June of 2025. All right. So with that Josh, I want to introduce this resolution and get the board's approval. So what's the process I should follow?
You would just want to, you summarized it, so now you ask for a motion to adopt the resolution to introduce the new law, and then you schedule the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
First off, any questions from the audience about this? Same process we're going to follow. Okay. So you make a motion that we adopt this. Any second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, good.
Now, you could do another motion to schedule the public hearing depending upon.
All right. I'd like a public hearing to be next meeting, the 20th of September.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll make a motion that we have a public hearing to review this proposed increase in the exemption limits for the senior and veteran.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, good. We're all set. Public hearing will be next month. And at that time, we can close the public hearing and vote to codify it in our local laws. Do I need a vote, written vote or anything like that, or?
You just did it.
I just did it. Okay, fine. We're all set.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Okay, next on the agenda is a discussion about the short-term rental code. So as I said at the start of the meeting, we initially were proposing a resolution based on some issues that Ian had and the fact that the deputy mayor is out and some feedback. We thought it was better to not have a resolution today, but instead for me to show a summary of what we're trying to do and what the issues are, the changes are, and then open up to the floor for questions and comments. So let me just go through these two charts. Yeah. On the proposed code for the village of Millbrook. So first off, what are the benefits? Short-term rentals compensate for the lack of hotel options for the visitors from the Millbrook area. We don't have hotels in the area, and there is a need for people who come visit to stay someplace. It does allow residents to earn income from available extra space, and it does provide financial support local businesses and restaurants when people who are renters go out into the community and eat and buy whatever. What we're trying to address is two things. One of them is just the lack of knowledge. Right now, we don't know how many STRs there are in the village or their location, whether they're in conformance to fire and zoning codes, and what the level of activity is. And the second concern is just neighbor concerns. Just who is it I can contact if I have a complaint? Is a property owner owned by someone who's a resident or versus a company? Is this solely for rental, this property? And just in general concerns that have been expressed that if we have a large number of rental properties, it will affect the neighborhood community. Right? And so, in my mind, as a board, we have priorities here. And I think the first priority is we protect the rights and the welfare of the full-time residents who are the neighbors of the STRs, while also providing a local place for visitors to stay and allow residents to make revenue from the extra space. Okay. In my mind, it's in that order. Anyone want to comment about that on the board?
I think it's fine.
Okay. Then here is what's in the current proposed code. So we're talking about a permit that's required every 2 years with a financial amount. We're asking for owner-occupied residencies, at least 50%. We want to cap the number of short-term rentals within the village. We pick the number of 20, not knowing how many are out there. We wanted to be separation between adjacent STRs. We want to limit the number of lodgers at a given time, not counting children under 5. We want to restrict the number of rentals within a 7-day period. We want to require an annual inspection by the CEO, especially for the fire code concerns. We want to institute fines if there's violations to the code, and a revocation of a permit if we have more than a violation within a year. So before I open it to the public, any comments or questions about that from the trustees?
Most of the questions that I would have to do with details that were in the proposal that don't necessarily fit in that list of general topics. So I think once we start getting observations from people in the audience, we can begin to call out and find out exactly where we've got to make changes.
Yep.
I'm not in favor of the want to tell us their point of view as well as what is incorrectly or not covered in the proposal that we are looking at.
All right, good. So I'm going to open it up to the floor. What I'd ask is, as I said at the beginning, that you would stand at the corner there, just in front of Mike Murphy, so you're on the camera. And if you just come up and give us your name and your location, and everyone's going to get a chance to talk. So go ahead, right there. And again, this is just a data gathering experience. We're not going to end up in a resolution. Oh, just go to the edge of the table right there.
Right here?
Yeah, right, Nicole? Yeah, that's great.
All right, my name's Lee McEnroe. I live at 33 Anson Avenue. I've had an Airbnb for 4 years this September. I've never had any problems with any of my guests or any complaints from any of my neighbors, and I am a 5-star Airbnb member. Okay? Two of my problems that I have with it is it was suggested in this sheet I got was that the 20 total would be allotted by a lottery system.
If we exceeded it.
And I would request that maybe the Airbnbs that are in the area now or have a substantial background as being a good Airbnb be grandfathered, so we don't have to be in the lottery. And the way I read it, and maybe I'm incorrect, is that the lottery was going to be drawn every year. So like 1 year you could have an Airbnb, but if you didn't get the lottery the next year, you were out. And I do this for income. The reason I don't rent my apartment full time is because I have 2 grown children that like to come home, and I block it off for when they can come home with their families. And this way it gives me the availability to do that, have flexibility, and then rent the apartment as, Airbnb.
So you're owner, you are on the property?
I am owner occupied.
Okay, I see, okay.
And I never hardly leave the property.
Okay.
The other thing that I don't agree with is the one rental within a 7-day period.
Mm-hmm.
That might be okay in January. This time of the year, I'm back to back with people. I've got somebody that'll move out on a Saturday by 11 and a new one coming at 3 in the afternoon. And it's my income.
So as short as how short could your rentals be? A few days?
Oh, 2 days.
2 days.
To 3 or 4 days, mostly. Sometimes a week, but mostly they're 2 days to 3 or 4 days. And they're for all different reasons.
Okay.
People come. I had somebody come from Austin, Texas last week to visit a friend at Millbrook School who was a teacher. I've got somebody here this week who's visiting his family on Maple Avenue. He's here for 4 or 5 days. I don't know. I have them for all different reasons. I have them come from Millbrook School, when they bring their children to look at the school overnight, or when they come to graduations. I have people that want to just come up and go to like the Millbrook Winery for the day. They find Millbrook charming.
Day renters, you said?
What?
For 1 day?
Yeah, I'll rent it for 1 day.
Wow.
Some people won't, but I do. Some people don't want to because of the turnover time. It takes, it's a lot of effort. You got to be there, clean it, and get it ready for the next person. But I do it. It's my living. It's how I make money.
Does Airbnb restrict the number of days that you can rent?
No.
No restriction?
No.
Okay.
So I'm really against that every 7 days, especially, what if somebody moved out on a Sunday and you had to wait 7 days? You'd miss the whole next weekend.
Okay.
So,
all right, good.
Okay.
Any other concerns?
No, I don't really, the other things don't bother me really.
Obviously then I should raise the fee.
What?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, I mean, my people park out of sight, they're in the back, and like I said, I've had no complaints.
All right, fine.
From any of my people.
All right, good, thanks. Who's next?
You know,
Yeah, come on.
yeah. Ted Briggs, Merritt Avenue.
All right.
A couple of things like Lee said is the people that I talk to that want, you know, the short-term rental reined in the code. Kind of what Lee's doing is, you know, what we like, you know, the owner-occupied. Because it's not the matter the number of days. For example, the scenario that we have, the reality we have next to us, we have non-owner occupied, person doesn't live here. The put in a nice gunite pool, huge, hot tub, blue stone pergola, and people come and enjoy it. And I don't care if they come for one night or they come for 2 straight weeks. They're out there, they're away from home, and they're enjoying it. So without the, you know, without regulating it, you're kind of leaving us open, us homeowners open to every summer. You know, we don't enjoy it, the backyard, for like the last couple of years. And it's not even the summer, it's the spring. Anytime you have the windows open, because I can hear every word these people are saying, because you sound different. Like if you're at the beach with your friends and family, then, you know, if you're at home and you're working the regular week. So it's not about the number of nights, it's kind of about regulating how it's done, and I think owner-occupied is a very good thing. Another thing is possibly even increasing the percentage of owner-occupied, because the concern is what you brought up before, losing your community. If just you constantly have strangers next to you. And I do like limiting the number you can do. All right?
Okay, thanks. So what else?
Hi, I'm Deborah Coddington. I live on Coddington Lane in Millbrook, New York. Did you guys even look at the Airbnb sites or any of the short-term rental sites that are so well known? Has anybody done any research on that?
We're going to research. I use them.
Okay, because it
I'm
seems,
a customer.
because some of the questions seem like they could be answered by looking at the site. Like how many Airbnbs there are, like you asked, does Airbnb mandate a certain number of nights? Actually not. Everybody gets to, it's a pretty complicated process. It's actually easy, but you go on and you tell Airbnb what you want, and they just plug it in. I mean, it's all.
You mean to do a rental?
Pardon?
You mean to do a rental?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
I mean, because if I'm an Airbnb, I choose actually. You know, I need 2 days ahead of time. Unlike you, I need more time to clean. So I'm not going to do it back to back. And you get to choose that. So
Yeah, okay.
that is up to the actual the person that owns the property or is renting the property. I have another question, which is it seemed to me like when I was looking at the original website that you had with the Airbnb, with the short-term rentals, I was told, could be wrong, that this was kind of, a lot of it came from Rhinebeck.
Yep.
Rhinebeck is, I think it would be a huge mistake to conflate Rhinebeck with the village of
I
Millbrook.
don't think we'll conflate it because it is different. But of all the things we looked at and trying to get ahead of the game, we thought it would be good to go and look at what other municipalities in the county
I don't disagree. I think you should look at a ton of things. The more research you do, the happier I am.
For example, Mike Murphy's there. You know, when the town went and reviewed their proposal for the short-term rentals, we actually copied a lot of stuff that he put in there, which we hadn't thought of.
Well, I saw that. I
Well,
saw
that's
that,
why this is a work in
and I
progress.
liked that a lot better. Actually, I thought that was a much more sensible approach. The reason I mention Rhinebeck is because when you're talking about a village like Rhinebeck, which a lot of people are, because it's really quite a seething little metropolis now.
Sure.
They have so many rentals. They have bed and breakfasts. They have they have hotels.
Yeah, hotels, right.
I could understand that as a village, they would want to sort of protect themselves from an onslaught of Airbnbs or anything like that. We don't. I get people who have no place else to stay. So you have to think about that. A lot of the people that do this, myself included, are on a very limited income. We are in our mid-70s. You know, if you start messing with that, you're messing with a lot of people's way of staying here. I mean, Fletcher's been here for 70 years. I've been here for 45.
All right, but I am afraid of an onslaught.
I agree.
Okay, fine.
I don't disagree
That's
with
why-
anything. I'm just saying that this proposal seems a little, what's the word? It's just not, it's not well researched.
Rushed.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That was my issue.
Well, no, we're flying blind to a certain degree. Part of the process is to get something in place and let's see where we stand.
Okay, I understand that, but it felt rushed, it felt wrong for this particular for this place. Another thing that my husband brought up, because we both spent, I printed it out for him, he looked at it, I looked at it, we marked it up, is you're talking about the village of Millbrook. The village of Millbrook, when you're dealing with the focal point of the village of Millbrook, the center of the village of Millbrook, the place where you eat and you shop, is very different than where I live.
Sure.
I'm residential. My neighbor is 8 acres, 4.78. Apples, oranges, grapes, kumquats. You can't conflate everything. I'm just bringing this up because I would love to see more considered approach to this.
You mean differentiation?
Pardon me?
Differentiation, you mean? Basically?
No, I think the whole thing is not considered. The proposal as it stands is not a very well considered proposal. That's all I'm saying. I understand that it's a beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you where I think you might want to go with it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Not just as an Airbnb person, because I've lived here for 45 years. I've run 2 businesses. I get it. Raised my kids in the school. Everybody knows me. I mean, I'm a long-term resident. I care. I care about your problems. I care about all the concerns. But I think it needs to be broadened so that you speak to more people that are actually doing the hard work of running their little Airbnbs and cleaning and sweating in the hot weather and making sure everything's perfect, which a lot of us do. And the residents, I mean, it's a little, the timing is compressed and it feels ill-considered.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, fine.
So, I mean, there's other things I have in here, but if you're gonna take a little bit more time and you're gonna do a little bit more research, and I would put money down that you probably could get a bunch of people that would help you with it.
All right.
I would think that you might have a proposal that would be a little bit more in line with just a little bit more flexible. So you would hit more of the points that everybody would be comfortable with. Because that's what you're looking for, I get that. This is not easy, and I think there should be.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, I'm not looking at, as Fletcher said, this is not something that's being proposed for right now. It's down the future, what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
You want your zoning to protect your community.
Right.
You want these laws to protect your community, I get it. As it stands, it seems poorly considered, very poorly considered.
Right.
I could go through it bit by bit by bit, you don't wanna hear me.
Well,
I
actually,
can get really
if you want to send me an email
Okay.
with those details, I'm more than happy to consider that,
Yep.
put that into the trustees.
I mean, that's all I'm saying is, I'd said it.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, next.
I have a short story, it just goes along with what Deborah said, and this is, my daughter's a good friend, and she's somebody we know. She was raised in the area, so she likes to come up here, because they live in New Rochelle and work in the city, and she has 2 children now. So she was really, really happy that she, instead of having to go to Rhinebeck, which they've done for 2 years, she found a place right in the village. It's actually on Merritt Avenue. But she was delighted that they could stay there. It was so restful. The kids used the pool. She invited us over. I brought my grandkids 2 days. Well, you took them and I did. And so she said she was going to reserve it for next summer. She wanted to do it as soon as possible because they like to come up here for a week.
Mm-hmm.
And someone on the board told her, well, it wouldn't be available next year because you're changing the rules. And so she couldn't get that. So she didn't care that much, except she was surprised there was no place in the village that would accommodate her with her family. And they walked in every single day. These people have money, and they want to spend it here. Every day they got breakfast and lunch in the village. You know, dinner, they got takeout, or they took their kids out 2 nights. They went to the diner, to Babette's, to the deli. They used everywhere. They knew all that Java. So it was just perfect for them, just really relaxing. And she'll go to another village. Like she said, I'll be back in Rhinebeck if these good places disappear. And anyway, I just wanted to say that I hope you're thinking about. We want to keep the village vibrant and fun. I like that there's nice businesses and restaurants here. And I have a feeling they rely on tourists. And so I hope you'll consider that.
Okay, thanks. Next, come on up.
I may be a little redundant,
That's okay.
but
First, I get your name, please.
Fletcher Cotting.
Oh, Fletcher, yeah, okay.
The things that really bother me about this are the lottery. Because everybody here that's running an Airbnb is a long-term citizen. And by doing a lottery, you're limiting a lot of people's income. The Airbnb that we rent, I just dumped 70 grand in. And I'd like to see a return on that investment. If you throw a lottery at it, all of a sudden there's no return on the investment. So I would much prefer to see a system where somebody has to get out of the Airbnb business before there's another permit issue. Which makes much more sense to me than a lottery. Because then the people that are counting on this income are guaranteed that this isn't going to be pulled out from underneath them by an arbitrary system. And the other thing I think that one could consider is that there are people that have noise issues. There's a lot of technology around for hanging acoustical shields that will cut noise pollution from one lot to another. And that is a possibility. It's not cheap, but if there is a friction because of that, it's a doable thing.
All right.
And the other thing I think that is important is that there should be a measure of, as this says, a measure of host accountability and host representation. We are in a very kind of secluded area. The noisiest people are our neighbors with their 10-year-old kids in the swimming pool. And I don't care, you know. I would think that some of my friends consider that really annoying and I should go over and tell them to be quiet. You know, now that comes down to an issue of people living next to each other. And if you're living in a village, you've got to expect some neighbor noise. Now, what is acceptable neighbor noise and what's unacceptable neighbor noise should be in this bill. Because then everybody has an idea of what acceptable and unacceptable noise is. So that is not something that is up for discussion, shall we say. The other thing I think that is important in this is that everybody that has an Airbnb or whatever it is, the timing issue that's in this depends upon how hard the host wants to work. Because in the summertime, you can have some, as she said, you have summertime, somebody moves out at noon, somebody else comes in at 3. They might stay a week, they might stay 2 days, they might stay 5 days, but there is a period in March where nobody comes. So the income that's accrued in the busy season is very important to the people that count on this for a living. Now, I'm on fixed income, I just sold my business, and I'm really looking forward to this as a supplement to my Social Security and all that stuff. And if you put limitations on how long somebody can stay and how long the dates have to be, it's really going to conflict with people's ability to make a living off of what they invested in. And I think probably everybody that has invested in this hosting situation has invested a fair amount of money in it. And it's, I think, ill-advised to restrict that. I think if you want 20 Airbnbs in the village of Millbrook, fine. 30, okay. But don't do a lottery, because it really impacts people's ability to stay here.
To
And,
continue to be in business.
well, be a part of the community.
Okay.
Because if all of a sudden I don't know, pick a number, it doesn't matter what the number is, I'm making yada yada on my Airbnb, covers my taxes, covers my food, and then the lottery happens, and I gotta leave, because I have no income. And then that opens up the community to somebody else coming, you know, it just changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it just seems to me that a lot of the bullet points in this, because it was lifted from Rhinebeck, which is a cosmopolitan area, this is a much more rural area. I really appreciate what the town did, because they're limiting firearms. They're limiting people on ATVs. And those two things, I mean, you don't need some yahoo with a gun running around shooting the place up, and you don't need somebody on an ATV that's going to have an ambulance show up and scrape them off a tree, you know. So those are things that...
In most of Millbrook, that shouldn't be a problem with ATVs running around.
Well, where I live,
yeah, no, I understand.
It can be.
Yeah, sure.
And the other thing about the ATVs, instead of banning ATVs completely, I think there ought to be a decibel level on the mufflers. Lime Rock, Connecticut, put a decibel level on race cars because the people that lived there didn't want to hear it. So if you have a complaint about that kind of thing, you have somebody come along with a decibel meter and go, that's too loud. You get 1 week to fix it, or you get a $500 fine. Now the muffler is going to be cheaper than a $500 fine. So I think that's a better way of dealing with the noise ordinances. And that's pretty much what I got to say.
Okay, thanks.
I'm Kevin McLean, I'm 1 Franklin Avenue. I'd like to start out with going back to, yes, we did rush this. The town, thank you, Mike Murphy, for 3 years talked about this. They had a committee for a year and a half. You had somebody here saying that I'm working on it every month, I'm working with the town. How often did you hear from the village?
I talked to Peter quite a lot.
Okay, that's, well, I heard something different, but okay. You could see that all he did was cut and paste Rhinebeck. The town really researched it. They had a whole committee. Our Airbnbs are needed here. I have people, I'm booked for 2 years. I have people calling me all the time that they need a place to stay. Orvis, Millbrook School, Millbrook on trials, people come in for funerals, weddings. I was talking to somebody 2 days ago, Carolyn Sina. She's getting married next year. She was going to have her wedding at an estate in Millbrook. She moved to Connecticut because she has no place for her guests to stay. All that income that all that money that these people would have spent in our village to support our restaurants, our shops, are now going to be spent in Connecticut. And every Airbnb guest that I have eats in our restaurants, shops in our stores. I had an Airbnb guest who went shopping so much that I had to have her put all her packages in our living room because they ran out of room. So I was not happy that I gave her more space, but I did that. And now Airbnb has been in the village for a number of years. We really have only heard about one place that has been complained about. I'm really sorry that you have a problem. So you had that problem. It could be anywhere in the village. Our residents, Jared again tonight, every time he gives a police report, he talks about how many domestic calls he went on. I haven't heard him say one call going to an Airbnb for a domestic problem.
They're happy. They're not causing a problem. The town is hiring a company called Rennia. I don't need to speak. Rennia, which I think you're going to. Which will we'll hire as well.
You're a neighbor, you have a problem, they have a 24/7 hotline. They also will help you with coming up with rules and regulations. Many municipalities are using them. The county is going to pay up to $5,000 to pay for it, so it won't cost you anything. If your neighbor who lives here full time is in the swimming pool and causing a ruckus, you can't call Grant. Who are you calling? Or I rent my house out to a year-round resident. Who are you going to call? I'm sorry. Also talking about that you didn't really research, finding out you don't know how many Airbnbs are here. You just go online. Right now there are 10 that are operating.
When I go online, I always find, I'm sorry, go ahead.
10 Airbnbs or VRBOs, or there's many different apps. There's not just Airbnb. There's a bunch of different apps. You know, so to go on Airbnb and say that there's just 9 out there is not true.
Right now that are operating, there are only 10. That's what I'm saying. I'm sorry.
So
there are other Airbnbs that are out there according to the county, but they're no longer operating. If you had an Airbnb 3 years ago and you're no longer using it as an Airbnb, the county still counts you as an Airbnb. It's not been taken off.
Okay, but when I go on, you're talking about going on the Airbnb website.
Yes.
I'm looking. I only find the ones that are available, right? So for example, yours would not be listed.
You put in flexible, exactly.
Okay.
I rented full time for 2 years.
Because I tried that, trying to get an idea, because the county said they won't tell us anything.
I bet that had somebody said, let's have a committee and let's get the Airbnb owners who happen to know all the other Airbnbs. You could have said, where are you? We could have told you.
Okay.
But there was no communication. That really would have helped.
I see, all right.
My other problem is, it doesn't really say it in here, but you have a difference between hosted and non-hosted.
I thought we took that out.
On the original.
On the original, I think so, yes. And this
Are you
version,
sure that you've taken that out?
I thought that was a decision we made.
Because this is very confusing, the way that you put this out.
Okay.
It doesn't say whether it's hosted or non-hosted.
I think we found we couldn't make it happen.
I also have a problem with that you have 100 days that you can have a rental per calendar year. That's still in there. That originally
It should
was
have been
going
on
to
my
be.
list.
That was original. It's not on your list?
No, it should have been on my chart here.
Okay.
You're right.
That originally was for non-hosted, which you had 16 days, which is what Rhinebeck has. Because it was just cut and paste, that's why it ended up there.
Sure. Okay.
You changed it to 100. You can't limit somebody's income. I think that that's wrong. The marketplace will show how many Airbnbs you have, how many Airbnbs you need. If no one's coming here, we're going to stop doing our Airbnbs. If we have so many people coming here to visit, we're going to need more Airbnbs because that's what this area survives on.
But I think we do need to have some level of controls on it.
Yes, we do. I agree. We need controls. And the town has most of their controls that they put out are all about safety, which, if you look at an Airbnb owner, when they sign up, they have to put all that in there. We have to have smoke alarms. We have to have carbon monoxide detectors. And we are rated by how our Airbnbs run. There are many Airbnbs. We all maintain our property because of our ratings. There are people that live in this village that don't maintain their property. We, I think, improve the look of the neighborhood and have increased your property values because of what has been done.
No doubt that Airbnb has a lot of controls that they require.
Yes.
I don't know about the other portals, if they do the same thing or
I
not.
mean, to show things that you haven't really looked at. You can put up a sign. You want our permit number when we get it to be listed in our advertisement. Had you read the research that Rennia has put out, Airbnb won't let you put a permit number.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Huh.
So obviously nobody looked at that. I'm sorry, that's what I'm trying to say, that you guys haven't really studied this.
Well, I mean, in a way, this is kind of what we're doing tonight. We're getting ideas from the
Yes.
community, you know, so
But
we're not really rushing.
But tonight you were going to propose the resolution.
Oh,
Had
I
Peter
think
been
we thought
here,
about
you would have
Yeah,
been doing the
that's right,
resolution.
we're right.
Am I wrong?
No, I didn't.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So you are rushing it. Tonight would have been the resolution. I don't mean to argue with you.
No.
I think what you do is a great job. And
Well, even if we had introduced the resolution tonight, it would require the public hearing, which is when we have this kind of fact
Yes.
finding.
But
This is just an opportunity to get
it
ahead
would
of
have been
that.
done a month from tonight.
Yeah.
So you're rushing it. The other thing is insurance. You want us to have insurance. Of course, all homeowners have insurance. Airbnb also gives us $1 million policy. I didn't know that either. So I think you need
No, but I don't know about the
to-
other, portals, like, I don't know, VRBO or whatever they are.
They require, I'm not sure if they have a policy, they require you to have insurance as well.
Okay. I can't go out and look at each individual provider and saying, do they meet
But
those
if we had a
requirements?
committee, that could have been done.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
And I guess as far as the Connecticut wedding, I do want to make sure we do have limits, because I can't get to the point where everybody's there being, super on a short-term rental. Because it will lose the.
If everybody
the whole
wanted to
con-
have,
of the
if
neighborhood.
everybody wanted to have an Airbnb, we would have so many worn out. It's very tough to run an Airbnb. People are not chomping at the bit to open this out.
Well, what's the-
Otherwise, you would have every other house on Franklin Avenue as an Airbnb, if it was that easy to do.
Okay. It must be financially lucrative, is what I'm gonna say, right?
For some it is, yes. And it's hard work, but there are a lot of people that don't want to do that work.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next.
Hey, if I'm a little spacey, I have one, so my head's a little off. But my name's Beatrice Moritz. I live at 15.
Beatrice?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm a photographer, and I bought my house to live in, but I've had some ups and downs. So I started Airbnb, I guess about 5 or 6 years ago. And it's been a lifesaver, and I've been able to actually make capital improvements. I probably take better care of it because I know that, I obviously get rated, and also I like my guests to be comfortable. But I'm owner occupied. And I guess my question would be, also to echo what some other people said, the lottery, again, that seems to me to almost give you an impetus. It doesn't give you a reason to do better, right? Like you picked one year, you're not picked another year. I think the criteria really should be how many people have been doing it and doing it well. Have there been any complaints? I mean, if I'm a homeowner that's had lots of complaints against me, theoretically, I could be chosen in that lottery again next year, right?
Mhm.
So I think a lottery is a bad idea. I like a lot of your other ideas, the safety issues, informing yourself about the insurance that we have, making sure that we have all of the things that we probably already do, but I get that that's a valid concern. I mean, I've never had an issue. I've probably rented to, I don't know the number of people, but I've definitely have about 135 5-star reviews. Mostly, I'd say 60% of the people have family here, or have lived here, or come up for a wedding. Again, exactly what everybody else has said.
You mean the renters?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're not some, crazy stranger from wherever out to house party. I already limit my house to 6 guests at a time, and I would say on average it's 2, because it's actually a very romantic little place, so I get a lot of couples. So the lottery, I definitely think, is not a great idea. There should be some way to reward people that are doing a good job and not lump everyone together with maybe someone who isn't, which I guess is my main question. Have there been other complaints? Like, has there been a lot of complaints that made you want to?
I wouldn't say a lot of complaints. I think I'm mostly motivated by just the fact that we have nothing today. We need to put something in. Because again, I don't want to wake up some morning and find out that the village is not primarily rentals. So that's why the impetus here.
Yeah, and you know, just like Kevin said, it's so much work to do an Airbnb. It actually, I would think that if it were so easy, most of the village would be doing it already because, you know, it's money. I certainly haven't gotten rich off of it. It's covered expenses and it's allowed me, for example, I'm going to be painting my house, which is, you know, really needed. And I probably wouldn't do that if I didn't have income coming in. So if you were to limit the number of people doing it, I think the number should be higher. It should be based on merit, perhaps on seniority, perhaps on owner occupied, right? Because we care about our houses. Although I think non-owner occupied doesn't mean anyone cares any less. But also my question about another point on here is, why do there have to be two lots between short-term rentals?
That was just something I think that also came from Rhinebeck. There was just concerns about the density of the rentals.
So then my other question is, how do you control that through a lottery? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, and to the other point the gentleman made, it is seasonal. I mean, I spend all winter in my house enjoying it. And then in the summer, and maybe a few weeks in the fall, is when I get most of my rentals. I usually just rent on weekends. So you are limiting people's income at a time when, you know, you really need it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, what was your last name?
Moritz?
Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
I don't really have, everybody said it already, so.
I have.
Your name?
And I have a guest house that I rent out, and it was very busy last year. I did it because of COVID and some other reasons. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy, but this year it's really been much less. And I don't think it's anything the village has to worry about that everybody's going to turn into an Airbnb. Because you don't have to, I know maybe you have to make some rules for the future, but I think this is over-regulation. I mean, sorry, I just feel like it's our property and keep it in nice shape, and I just don't think it's necessary. So.
I don't agree, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I think our job is to make sure we don't get things out of control. Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you.
I got one more thing.
Come on, folks.
And it's short. Having lived in this town a lot and worked in a lot of the houses in this town, there are a lot of houses. I grew up in a 7-bedroom house. The one next door to me has 12 bedrooms. I think limiting it to 6 people is short-sighted. Because if you have a house that can sleep 10 people and you're living there, you can take in, if you got 10 bedrooms and you're in one, you can take in, I don't know, 18 people.
How often does that happen? Oh, this is your neighbor.
This is just, I'm just saying things
how
about
often would
the bill. I'm not saying that this happens. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that right next to me there's a 6-bedroom house, there's a 10-bedroom house, there's a 8-bedroom house.
Well, how often does, in your situation, do you exceed the six?
Oh, I can't.
Oh, you don't?
I have 2 beds.
I see. Okay, fine.
That's it. But I'm saying, as far as this law is concerned, I think limiting it to 6 people is short-sighted. That's all.
Okay.
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
But, you know, I mean, it's.
Well, could you come over here just so we get you on camera?
Most people are either coming, you know, for fun, they're coming to spend money, and they go away, they come for 2 nights, and they're gone. There's no other problems, I mean, you know, I just don't understand what the problem is.
I think it goes back to what I said before, just the sense of community, the fact that there's a constant influx and outflow of people. It's just not the same as having a neighbor that you know and know the dog and know the kids.
The neighbor's still there, I'm still there.
All right,
if I
I'm
have, I
just
could
saying it's-
have guests, you know,
Could
my
have
own
guests, right.
guests, so, I mean, I just, you know.
All right.
The village needs it also, really.
They need a hotel too.
Yeah. They need the hospitality.
We don't have that.
That's not happening.
Everyone disagrees.
The hotel's not happening.
Yeah, everyone disagrees.
So,
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay, thank you. Buffy.
Really quickly, sorry. Buffy Arbogast. I'm not here on behalf of the MBA because this came out very quickly and I have not had a lot of time to talk to a lot of the other members, but as a business owner and someone who owns an accessory apartment that could be an Airbnb, which I did not do because it is a lot of work. I didn't have the time with a full-time job and everything, so we decided just to have renters, full-time renters.
Mhm.
But going through this, and there are several points that people have already made, but I would like just to have it on record as well, that there are several things that I disagree with in this proposal. And I do agree with everyone that I think it should be slowed down. I think there should be some conversation about this. I think there should be a committee created with people who have had some problems, people who are Airbnb owners, people on the board, maybe a couple of MBA members, bringing some people together to really talk about how we can make this work as a community. Myself, I do not want to see someone coming in from California and buying up all these properties, and next thing you know, our community is doesn't have affordable housing or places for long-term rentals, which we already need for working class folk, which we don't have. So, several things, and some of them are exactly what everybody else said, but I completely disagree with the lottery. I think maybe the people who are doing it should be grandfathered in. I'm wondering where this percentage came from. It just seems, again, that it was sort of like a cut and paste kind of thing. If we have 577 residential homes in our community, 20 Airbnbs, it's less than 5%. So I'm not saying that we need more than that, but I definitely don't think we need any less than that. Owner occupied, yes, to an extent. I think that
You're saying you agree on owner occupied?
to an extent.
Yeah.
So what if my neighbor's house comes up for rent, for sale, and I decide to buy it, and I decide I want to do an Airbnb? I'm right here. I can look out my window and I can see what's going on.
Mhm.
I know, that Teddy's had problems with that, but you're not the owner next door, unfortunately, to your house. But if I'm able to buy a property and I decide to rent that property out as an Airbnb instead of a full-time rental, why can't I do that? It's not an accessory apartment, it's not on my property, I'm not owner occupied. So you can't just have these rules set in place that may not apply to everyone.
Right.
So, we should have definitely rules in place, and maybe we should start small with safety rules and, getting, some things in place, maybe a fee for everybody to register and making sure that they're up to code, and then review it year to year and come back to it and really say, have we had any complaints? Have there been any problems? What can we do to improve this? Do we need to amend it? Do we keep it the same? It needs to be ongoing. It doesn't need to be so rigid where all of a sudden people who've made these investments already to have these Airbnbs are now put in a lotto system and they may not be getting any revenue.
Mhm.
The whole adjoining property thing is crazy. I mean, we're a small village. We already have a couple of Airbnbs that are butting each other if you knew where all the Airbnbs were. The 100 days, crazy. It's ridiculous.
100 days was a limit.
Limited,
Right,
yeah. And also, as far as safety goes, this one that says that there shall be an ABF fire extinguisher on each floor, great. And then it says that the renter occupying the property and no less than a monthly permit by someone, needs to come in and inspect the extinguisher. You don't even hold commercial properties to that standard. You don't even hold commercial properties who have renters above them living there to that code. I mean, that's crazy. Like, I get my fire suppression system inspected, I don't know, 2-3 times a year by a company. They know when they come in, and when they come to do my fire inspection, they say, we're gonna do your apartments at the same time. And you leave the extinguisher out, they do the inspection, it's tagged, but monthly, like, that's crazy.
Well, monthly is a self-inspection, right? I think, that's just for a fire code.
Yeah, but it's like, how does someone know, like, if it's fully charged and, like...
Well, there's a dial on there that you read and verify that that's good.
All right.
I think that's
It'd be like you using your own fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
You know.
I've never used it.
Well, hopefully you But there's a
Well, thanks for
there's a
clarifying
payment
that.
and there's a fee.
Okay.
So
Good.
just be you checking it after someone.
Okay,
Right, fine.
that's good to know. So
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying that. Because, but again, I'm not sure that every apartment that's rented in this village has an extinguisher. So just saying.
Yeah.
So,
Just because they don't doesn't mean that we shouldn't be trying to enforce a
Right.
fire code.
Exactly.
right. So there's a lot of concerns in this, that how it's been proposed, and I think that why rush it? I think that yes, it's important to have it codified because we don't want a lot of people coming in, buying up properties, turning them into Airbnbs, but I think it lends itself to more conversation and understanding the needs of the already Airbnb owners, the business owners, the people who've had
The
problems.
committee is a good idea.
So I think that we just have to sort of slow it down.
All right, fine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Lori Seppi-Martyr, longtime resident of Millbrook, although I live in Armenia now. My mother and father owned a house on 60 Front Street, and when my mother passed away in 2018, my sister and I inherited that house, and so we didn't want to sell it because it's been in my family for 4 generations. And so Airbnb seemed a good way to go. We started out doing just a rental. Didn't really like that, didn't feel protected. I actually say that we feel most protected with the Airbnb system. I'm different because we don't live on the property. But Joe Rochfort, who everybody knows here, is my property manager.
Okay.
So he comes down, he mows the lawn, he does things. If anybody has a call and I can't get there, he takes care of the place.
Okay.
But I do not live on the property. Adjacent to me is Tanya Jackson, who has an Airbnb. She actually started hers maybe a few months before we did. Our property line, we're right next door to each other. So this thing with the 2 lots is confusing.
Okay.
You know, we each pay our own taxes and we don't share that.
And she's also.
And she actually kind of looks out for me, and I look out for her. So it works out nicely. We haven't had that many overflows of people coming in, but once we had somebody who actually had a nanny who needed a more private space because I only had a bathroom and a half, and they wanted to put her there, so she ended up renting with Tanya, going over in Airbnb. So things like that happen.
Okay. Tanya Jackson also has an Airbnb?
Yes, she's here too.
Oh,
yeah, she's
okay.
an Airbnb. So that's why I'm different, and but I mean, I'm at that premises, you know, at least maybe once a week or every 2 weeks. I've got to come in and clean, and I have a cleaning person, but I do it with them. And because we're on this rating system, yes, we're rated by the tenants, but we also rate them as well. So it makes you, you know, you're on your best behavior because we all want to get that 5-star rating, and you know, so it makes for you know, well-behaved, tidy tenants, and good landlords, which is sometimes hard to find. I know a lot of people who do not have very nice very good landlords. I go, oh my God, I would never get away with that in our system. You know, my problem is, you know, just making sure that the place is quiet and calm for other people. I have problems with my neighbor on the other side, who's not Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
It's very noisy. I've actually made complaints about them, and he doesn't have to live up to any standards in town. I do. I keep my property taken care of, and so that's the difference. I could have sold my house to somebody like that, or who knows who, but we didn't.
Okay.
And I agree with everything else that they have brought up.
All right. Thank you. Next.
Actually, I just want to say one thing. She mentioned that she has a.
Can we go just so you can sound like Sam, or they can't hear you?
Lori mentioned that she has a property manager, Joe Rochfort. Why don't, if you have an unoccupied owner, have them require a property manager who's local? This way you wouldn't have a problem with somebody being an absentee host.
Yeah, okay.
So that could also be done.
All right, who's next?
My name is Tammy Jackson, and I own Airbnb at 58 Front Street, opposite the Millbrook store. And I just wanted to reiterate the point of proper research needs to go into setting up laws and rules and regulations to regulate the Airbnb community. Airbnb itself is a very, very highly rated organization that puts a lot of pressure on Airbnb owners. Nobody can just become an Airbnb owner. You have this a tremendous amount of stuff that you have to comply with. In the proposal, I see they say that you have to supply house insurance and insurance for the tenants. I don't know about anybody else here, but I have house insurance and I have a very, very big liability insurance for my visitors that come. So it's two completely separate issues. And those things cost a lot of money. So the proposal came as a real surprise to all of us, particularly as it was based on the Rhinebeck template that somebody used. It's just not comparable. We've got 4 little restaurants in Millbrook. Rhinebeck's got 37. 7 of those restaurants are Zeko graded. We've got none in Millbrook that's Zeko graded. The revenue that these people, the visitors, are bringing into Millbrook to Alicia Adams as per Kevin's guests, the daily breakfast, coffees, restaurants, although it's not a lot, I believe we've only got 12 Airbnbs. I just find it a little bit strange that it should be regulated to the extent that's been proposed.
I see.
Yes.
You said there's 12 Airbnbs in the village?
That's what we believe and that's what we are aware of. That's operating.
Actually, there's really only 10 that are out.
Only 10, exactly.
There are others that are listed.
So there's 10 Airbnbs and then there's other STRs. Are there other STRs?
What about VRBOs? Any VRBOs?
Yeah.
I'm familiar with those. I'm not on VRBO.
I don't know a single person that does VRBO.
I know people, but they're not in Millbrook.
Yeah,
They have much larger houses and they're outside of the.
So you're saying
they're not in
Airbnb
town
is the
Washington.
only portal that's being used by?
Yeah.
It's not,
I don't think anybody
not that
can
it
say
can't
that.
though. If
Yeah,
you
they
wanted,
could.
if you wanted to register as a VRBO, you could.
You could.
You know.
Okay.
The other one that I
Just-
wanted,
excuse me, I'm just trying to understand, so we think that after we impose these regulations, there's gonna be more? I'm trying to understand,
No.
We have 10 now,
right.
where it's a free-for-all, theoretically. We have no complaints,
Well, we have-
very few complaints. And we think somehow that even after imposing regulations, we're gonna have an explosion of short-term rentals in the village. I'm just not following the whole
I'm
train of
not
thought.
guaranteed it'll be an explosion. I'm just worried that there could be and we would then be left holding whatever.
I think the problem, which I understand, and we do need regulation, is the whole concept of Airbnb is being taken out of context. I don't know if you understand, the Brian Chesky is the founder of Airbnb, and the whole concept originated with him needing accommodation in Manhattan for one night. He called his buddy in Manhattan and said, I need to come and stay. He says, I'm sorry, I'm full, you can't come. And he says, but what I can offer you is a mattress in my living room. And he says, great, that's all I need. I'll be there at 11 o'clock tonight. I'll be out by 7 o'clock the next morning. All I need is a bed and a shower. And that's really the concept. That's how it started. And that's how it started, with people renting a little kiosk in their little house, then a bedroom, then 2 bedrooms, then suddenly, it exploded. So the problem that I definitely concur with is we do not want people to come and purchase and change the values of properties in any village and then buy them specifically just for Airbnb, because it can be a very lucrative income and obviously a spin-off into the villages. The other second point that I wanted to make is, I don't know if you have contacted the county, the Dutchess County, and asked them what is the tax revenue that gets collected automatically. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, 7%. Yeah, I know, I talked to them about that, yeah.
So,
because I was interested in what the village should be charging.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and we're not opposed to a token fee to the village, as long as it's reasonable and stayed capped at a certain amount. Everybody is here to do the best that we can and to try to stimulate the economy, and everybody wants to work together. The same thing with regards to running an Airbnb, as everybody will be able to attest here. It is a tremendous amount of work. Every single one of my reviews, that's another thing, Airbnb, not only do we as hosts have to be reviewed by the guest, but the guests also have to be reviewed by the host, and they have to qualify. And you as a host can look at the review and say, I don't like this person, I'm going to decline the booking. So that's a very wonderful thing. A hotel can't do that. That would be total discrimination if a hotel has to do that, and that's not existing in a commercial kind of setup.
As I said before, I'm well aware of Airbnb and all the controls, and I
Right.
actually use them myself when we go down to Atlanta and see our son.
Right.
But I didn't realize that was exclusively what vehicles being used by the village.
I don't know that that's true.
Yeah, okay, I don't
I mean, I think, you see,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, let Tanya finish that.
Okay, I'm just gonna say.
I just want to say an additional point with that. Properties on Airbnb is being kept and maintained exquisitely and impeccably, and it has to be, because if you don't do that, your ratings go down. So it's a rating system, and it works very, very well.
Okay.
So as we've all attested, it's a lot of work to run an Airbnb. My reviews, every single one of my reviews, everybody always says sparkling clean. Well, sparkling clean doesn't just happen. There's a lot of elbow grease and a lot of tears and it's extremely a lot of hard work goes into that. So, as I said, we're all working for the greater good here.
Okay, thank you.
I think what
sorry,
I'm hearing is that,
I'm sorry, yeah, sure, go ahead.
what I'm hearing is that everybody who is part of the short-term rental community here has problems with the proposal. So basically what I'm hearing is, it seems like people need to just slow the road.
Mm-hmm.
Because I honestly think everybody wants the same thing. How you get there, maybe a little different. I love what Buffy suggested, which I hadn't thought of, which was do it incrementally, which I hadn't even thought of. What a good idea. She's also very collaborative, and getting a committee together of a bunch of people would probably have eliminated this.
Yeah, okay.
That's all I'm saying. I don't think anybody's saying you can't. I mean, this isn't a law.
Mm-hmm.
This is a proposal.
Right.
So now we get to work on it,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And we're all saying these are the things we think you guys need to work on.
Yeah, but I
They're
need to
not
make sure we
similar.
have both sides covered on such a committee.
I don't
Right.
think, if you look around at so many of the people that are here doing the work of the Airbnb renter, the people that own the home and take care of it, you got a lot of long-term residents. Nobody wants to see the nature and the whole tenor of the community change. I've been here for 45 years. I'm sort of horrified by some of the growth I see. I mean, I'm a hermit. I don't like that a lot of stuff, even though I ran businesses. And I think you'll find everybody wants affordable housing. They want places where people can rent. But there is a market for this as well. And that proposal didn't feel like that.
All right.
And when you read it, it was like, whoa. I hope they're not going to ram this through because it doesn't feel good. And this also comes you know, you gotta think about the hospitality issue that we're having in the whole region, the whole community, well, in the town of Washington. I mean, they're dealing with that, that's been a real issue. It impacts the village of Millbrook. This is the only hospitality we have at the moment. What will happen? I don't know. Depends on zoning, depends on what comes up. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's, you know, being discussed.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So this is part of it. I don't think everybody says, oh no, it's just, it came across as like, this is what we're gonna do, and it's like, oh my gosh, nuh-uh.
All right, well, that's why we're talking.
And that's, it needs discussion, and
Fine.
it needs collaboration, that's all. That's really, I think, what you're hearing.
All right, good, thanks.
Yeah.
Who else?
I just wanted to add.
Can you just go on?
Two points you just brought up, VRBO, and I think the reason that most of us use Airbnb, as far as I know, is that there's checks and balances in place in Airbnb that you won't find in any of the other companies. VRBO means two property owners deal with each other directly, and if there's a problem, good luck. You know, you deal with each other. The company doesn't provide any kind of guidance. Where Airbnb is like the middleman. They provide mediation. They try to resolve things. They have specific rules, as well as a review system which keeps all of us honest and doing a good job. Because we're your neighbors. We want to be a good part of the community.
But the code we write has to cover both those scenarios. If there's anything other than VRBO out in law, has to cover that as well. So yeah, Airbnb, I know from firsthand experience using it, has a lot of controls.
Yep.
I know the rating system, right? But I don't know that that's true for the other ones, and I don't know what it is beyond VRBO.
Just my rudimentary knowledge is, I mean, obviously it has to apply to everything, but I just thought I'd point that out because you should know what the differences are.
Yeah.
And also, a totally different point, we employ people to clean our houses, to mow our lawns, to work on the gardens. I mean, I have a wonderful cleaning person who I've been using for 4 or 5 years, and I told her about this, and she said, oh my God, tell them I need the income, because she comes 4 times a month. And, you know, there's a trickle-down effect, I think that term, sorry, but,
yeah, sure.
you know, they all, we don't work in a vacuum. We actually, in addition to having brochures in our houses for local businesses and recommending the masseuse down the street, everything creates money. I'm creating money for other people. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, all right, fine. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, look, I appreciate all the input, and we will talk about this as a board and figure out how we proceed. We have to first, once Peter returns, I'll make sure I will sit down and have a discussion from there. All right? Okay, anything else on that topic? Any final comments from the trustees? All right, let's move on. All right, so that was the proposal before we talked about getting the public hearing we just had, so I appreciate everybody's comments. Any other public comments from the community regarding anything else we discussed today? All right, let's go on. Let's do board member updates. So first off, Trustee Herzog.
Okay, just something is on the agenda. It says NRI.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. The NRI project is basically a grant that we have been working through in order to identify our natural resources within the village. We've been meeting monthly. We've been able to mostly work on things such as maps of the area that show everything from soil, water, and different parts of the community that have been here for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And we are trying to upgrade it and update it so that as local planning boards, whether it be town or village, are working to make sure that we retain our resources, we also retain the character of the area at the same time. So we've been making good progress. We have we had a meeting yesterday, as a matter of fact, reviewed 3 new maps, and basically we are very close to being able to have a presentation of what would be close to a final draft of written text and maps to be able to present to this board as well as to the planning board and the zoning board of appeals for the village. And since the town of Washington and the town of Clinton are also involved in this, we're going to have a meeting planned for September 21st to have all those maps out, to have experts, professionals who have been guiding us along the way from the Cornell Carter Extension and from other places in order to be able to help us come up with what we think would be something that would be user-friendly as well as cover scientifically the areas that we have to in order to find out what our natural resources are. So Leslie Heaney, who's working as a representative for the town, has asked to have me check with the board members to see if September 21st, which is the day after our next planning meeting, would be a date that we could get together and there could be a short presentation of what's been done so far, and we could have the ability to show all the maps. There could be as many as a dozen or more that people could look at, covering all the different things I've talked about, as well as the text that would accompany those, and be able to get your comments. We're supposed to wrap the entire thing up by the end of the year and have something that was finished and a final product in no later than January of 24. So.
All right, so let's open the invitation to the trustees for the 21st of September, 6 o'clock. I assume it's going to be here.
Right. Here.
And it's just a presentation by the task force of the National Resources Inventory. It's going to be also with the towns of Clinton and Washington, right? Mm-hmm. It's the three of us together. Right. Most of the work and most of the analysis has been done based on what's going on in the towns as opposed to the village. Right?
Some of it, yes, but we've also been going to farmers markets. I've had two.
There's an advertisement.
Yeah, we had two farmer markets presentations where we had a booth and had people from the general public coming through, asking questions, giving out brochures to explain the Climate Smart Communities program. We've given out freebies of extra masks, thanks to suggestion of our deputy clerk over there, and they've been happily scoffed up, and they're not all done, but they're getting out there. We've had a lot of good interaction with people in the community. The last one of the farmers market dates would be August 19th, and we have 4 people, including myself, who have said they'll sit on that Saturday from 9 until 1 and do the same thing we have once in July and once in June to answer questions, hand out the pamphlets that I gave out the last time we had a meeting, distribute the masks, and get reaction so we can hopefully come up with something that is, as I said, user-friendly and not just vast in science, so it's unreadable.
Okay, good.
Okay, so there's that. And the other thing that I have is, because we have finished our greenhouse gas inventory, we've submitted the report. The next thing that we would be doing is coming up with a climate action plan to then actually do some things that would reduce our carbon footprint and the greenhouse gases that we are currently using. Now that we have a baseline, the idea is to try to come up with ideas and working with other municipalities for 4 meetings in the fall that will begin to be able to have us come up with a plan to do that. None of this is mandatory. In other words, anything we put in the plan is not something that would be then dictated as an unfunded mandate. It would be just how we're hopefully going to save, make the environment better and save greenhouse gases. And we're on our way already with the work of the people from Climate Smart Communities and the EV chargers and all the other things we've already made progress on. Okay, so we have to be able to vote on in order for have myself and Genevieve participate in those next 4 set of core meetings. We have to be able to approve the template of.
So we have a resolution here. It's undertake a community greenhouse gas inventory and community climate action plan. All right. Basically says that basic work we've done so far, and to continue that work, basically we need the board's approval. Right. So I don't know if you've heard the details of it, but it's pretty much cookie cutter stuff. So basically, I'd like to put it to vote the adoption of the resolution And just, Nicole, can you just go through the attendees and ask for their vote? Mayor Collopy?
Oh, Mayor Collopy.
Aye.
Trustee Herzog.
Aye.
Trustee Cantino and Murphy.
Okay, so the resolution was adopted as documented in the presentation. All right, good, Mike, anything else?
No, that's
Okay,
pretty
Trustee
much it.
Cantino.
Two things. So on the EV chargers, I just want to reiterate, there are now 4 charge ports fully installed at Town Hall. The underlying pads are paved and available to the public. Though we are sharing the cost of paving the site with the town, the estimated $59,000 cost associated with the installing, networking, and maintaining of the chargers over the 5-year contract have been underwritten completely by the state, Central Hudson, and the manufacturer. Last weekend we had our first customers. Tomorrow we will have a press conference at 3 promoting the availability of the chargers to Millbrook visitors that I think will also demonstrate the breadth of this collaboration. We're expecting the town, business association, representatives from the manufacturer, the Electric Vehicle Association, and Dutchess County Tourism.
Great.
Yeah, they're all interested in joining us.
Very nice.
So over the course of the contract, we will also be getting data on the usage of the chargers so that we can make assessments about what to do when the contract comes due. Other than the work that I think we're all going to be trying to do with our other partners to promote the chargers, I have a template for you with the signs that I think are really good that the manufacturer put together.
Good.
They have also put notice of the chargers already on the apps that people use for the electric vehicles.
All right.
PlugShare, Google, their own app, ChargePort, and there's an Apple app as well. Second, the code. So Trustee Murphy and I are working on both the skateboard and litter codes, or the litter sections of the code. Toward that end, we have met with the President of the Millbrook Business Association, Buffy Arbogast, and had preliminary discussions with Mayor Collopy, Sergeant Witt, and Public Works Supervisor Collocola for their input on these areas. We cannot promise imminent drafts, though I think it's fair to say that these discussions have been very helpful to framing the issues. Certainly, we should add any detail. Okay.
Did you go and look at the cans and all that?
No, I haven't finished. I mean, I have looked at some, but I think you and I.
We kind of know the details. People are locking the lids of them, so you can take the lids off and throw their garbage right in there, you know. And then Royal Cardi has a problem not having keys with them, and Welsh. So it's like stuff like that, little things that we can probably get to before even.
One would hope, although I think some of the locks are missing.
Well, let's face it, when we first put the lids on there, we put the locks, and Welsh was all about locking and unlocking. Obviously, it's tedious.
Yeah, it is.
And so what happened was the initial thing with the locking did help reduce the amount of, I would say, house refuse that was being stuffed in there. And so when they stopped locking, for a while people didn't realize it, I guess. And then finally people figured it out, so we kind of reverted back. All right. So it's a process.
Yeah, and then also with garbage, getting behind the garbage cans in the containers,
Yeah, that's
you know,
a problem,
under it, all that too. Makes a mess, so.
Yeah.
We should try and figure it out.
All right,
Maybe
whatever you guys
different-
want to do there, I think will be much appreciated by the community, by the businesses. That's good.
We're noodling it.
Yeah, we're
Okay, good. All right. Just
That's
keep-
it.
keep on ahead. Thank you very much. Looking forward to the ribbon cutting tomorrow.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
time is it again?
3 o'clock.
Great.
And
Big-
Shirley's gonna be
big
there, right?
scissors coming.
Yes, yeah. Shirley's gonna be there, right? Okay, good. All right, Pat.
I have 2 bids so far on Village Hall steps right now. Do
Okay.
we share them or?
Yes,
do I have to wait? I thought I have to wait for the 3rd bid.
Let's wait for the 3rd, and
Because
actually there's a
then they
form I
get-
want you to fill out, I'll send that to you.
Okay.
So just write it up,
Okay.
and then make a recommendation.
Yeah, I got 2 bids from Boscardin and Simon Simmons.
Excellent. Yeah, if we get a third one, just for the sake of our procurement policy.
Okay.
Actually, the procurement policy requires that you contact and request if you have a third person that doesn't respond, that would count.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
So if you get a no bid, that would also satisfy
That
me.
would count.
But generally, the cost is in the range of like,
Who's a good third person, or person we've used in the past, year? We're just looking at someone and get them.
I look at you more better than I do. Do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got two, I can get three.
Okay, great. That'd be great. And the numbers are in the range of like
Less than
10 grand. Okay, so I showed you
Less
the,
than.
all right, so we're in good shape there. I'd like to get this thing approved and working so it happens this season before the winter.
I think that's definitely.
So I guess what we're talking about is waiting until next month. Is that going to be a problem?
Yeah, I
The
think
board
next
approval?
month we can definitely get it.
Okay, great.
I think just, we need one more bid, that's not a
Yes.
big deal, and then I'll fill out the.
Super. Okay, good. Great job. I appreciate that. All right, what have I got? Two things. First off, NICOM. Next month both Sarah and Karen are going to be at the NICOM training. I sent out the email to y'all. Any trustees interested in going to NICOM? I'll tell you the truth, there's a problem, of course, for you. I went once. I tag teamed with, at that time, Mayor Rod, which worked out very well. So it was informative, but it is a week, and it's pretty intense. And so if you're interested, let me know. Otherwise, I think from Sarah and Karen being there, we'll get at least a lot of the information, yeah, from the financial perspective as well. Anyway, all right, so that's there for you if you're interested. The last thing I got is the old dump behind Harry's garage. Someone suggested to me, why don't we just list it with a broker for sale and see what happens? And someone else said, why don't you just have AAR Auctions, who've done such a great job selling anything we can put in front of them, to have them do it. And I'd like to know what you all think about that. I actually, to tell you the truth, I had a discussion with Lisa, the town assessor, and was talking about opportunities, and she says, I know a guy, let me give him a call. And he called me up and he says, hey, I'm interested in buying that property. It was kind of like a cash deal, and I said, well, first off, let me talk to the board about this. I feel more comfortable going through like a formal.
You have to.
Oh, you have to? Okay, good. Thanks. Thanks, Josh.
I like
Good.
the auction idea.
All right. You like the auction?
Yeah.
All right. Maybe we should do that.
For land.
Yeah.
The assessor,
Yeah, okay, good. All right, well, that's good to know. Thank you for that. Well, then, based on that, should I ask for the board's approval to go and listen to the AR auctions? Well, let's think about it. We'll talk about it next month. I don't want to rush into it. But if you think of any other ideas.
Rushing anything.
That's right. That's right. There's no reason to rush it.
It's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. By the way, just got to keep saying, we just got an EPA report where they dug X number of holes and found no contamination for anything they checked, which knocked my socks off, but that's what the data says.
Well, that's important because.
Absolutely.
Because it has to be advertised as recently licensed sale that,
Yeah.
Where they did those kind of things, and no one's going to be inheriting a DEC site.
Yeah, right. So anyway, that's on my agenda, and I'm on a piece of copy. If we can make some money on the side, that's even better. Right now, it's on our tax rolls. We pay taxes on it, which drives me up a wall. But anyway, that is what it is. So I'm very interested. Think about it over the next month. Any other ideas, let me know.
Just one other thing, I
Yes.
wanted to thank Patrick. He was there for during the walkthrough for the
good.
construction walkthrough,
All right.
and had great insight in terms of being able to ask good questions of the person who was there, because I don't have a construction background, and he was really did a wonderful job, and also spoke highly of Suno, so I feel better about
All right.
being able to use them.
All right, good. Yeah, the more that you can be involved in that process, I know you're working full time, it's right, you're conflicted with what you're doing for a living, but the more you can do to participate, whatever.
Yeah, the most I
appreciate
can be there if I can.
Great.
Take an hour lunch or whatever.
Appreciate that.
Be in meetings.
Okay, good. Anything else to be discussed tonight?
Dinner.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Josh, thanks so much for coming.
You'll let me know what you guys decide. I think I know without even telling you, but.
Um,